All right, you're up.
How at SEC Media Days does Texas and Oklahoma become the story? Big 12 Media Days, Bill, was last week, not this week. And now we're talking about the possibility, at least there's a report out there, that there is interest. Texas and Oklahoma have reached out to the SEC. Texas A&M, as you might imagine, not very pleased about this. I know you said on social media last night you were very interested, excited about talking about this on the show this morning. So you go right at it, sir. Let's hear the off the top gas baggy hot take on Texas, Oklahoma, the interest in the SEC, possible super conference. I've already seen the possible divisions, the way it would break down, and the whole thing. Where are you at on this?
Well, let's start. I think that I think this is going to happen. I mean, it feels like they uncovered some kind of sinister plot. I don't know what you want. What kind of? Because I got a bunch of movie references that I use throughout the morning here, but I think this is going to happen. The way that everybody responded yesterday. Usually, it feels like when these things happen and they come out, that it's a pretty quick just denial. Like, no, there's nothing to that. It's not sure what's going on there. This one feels different. You get Texas and Oklahoma like saying, yeah, we're not going to respond to unsubstantiated reports. And you got Greg Sankey, who apparently was just walking around, but only going to talk about the 2021 season. And then you get Oklahoma State putting out a response. You got Texas A&M basically saying we're going to fight this. Like, it wasn't. I feel like most times when you've seen this in the past, it's just rumor, and this feels like it was pretty far down the line already. And the only thing that makes me not believe that is I would think if it's this far down the line, the athletic directors in the SEC would have to know something about it. And the way that Texas A&M kind of responded and tried to fight it, I don't know if they were aware of it. It just seems that's the only funny part to me. But the way everybody responded, Oklahoma State's like, yeah, we're gathering information to monitor the situation. We're seeing what's going on. Like, again, the way this is come out, what I think is going to happen is this is going to be the new era this is going to be the start of the new era of college football, and it'll start in 2025. And again, where I'm at on this, to which I think will draw a lot of disagreement, I'm all for it. Let's go. I think this is a fun move. I think there's a lot of different ways the SEC can kind of reshape itself here, whether they want to do 8-team conferences, whether they want to do 4-team pods. I don't know how you get a conference championship out of that. That's another part of what I believe is coming, is the conference champions are almost about to be irrelevant now. I don't even know if conference championship games will be had. I think this is going to happen, and I'm all for it. I think this is going to be great, and I think you're going to see the ACC make a move now on Notre Dame, and they'll pluck another team. Maybe it'll be West Virginia. Maybe it'll be Central Florida. Maybe they'll go after somebody else. I don't know who they'll make a move on. I think you'll see the Big Ten try and pick up some scraps here and scoop up a team or two. The Pac-12 will maybe go for the remainder of the Big 12, and we'll see if the AAC can nudge its way into the Power 5, or if they're just going to be on the outside looking in. But guys, I was kind of blown away, not by the report, but by the responses to the report, because Tim, you've done this for a long time. You know that generally when reports like this are pretty non-factual and don't have some substance to them, usually the schools behind them, the responses are pretty strong and swift on, no, there's nothing to it. Nobody really denied anything yesterday.
So it was the Houston Chronicle article, right? That basically said both of these schools have reached out to the SEC and expressed interest, and they will not be re-upping rights deal for their media stuff, and the media rights deal for the 12 goes up in 2025, and Oklahoma, Texas will not be re-upping that. And then the response that you're talking about, Texas spokesman in a statement: speculation always swirls around college athletics. We will not address rumors or speculation. Oklahoma in a statement: the college athletics landscape is shifting constantly. We don't address every anonymous rumor. Texas A&M athletic director Ross Bjork, we want to be the only SEC program in the state of Texas. There's a reason why Texas A&M left the Big 12 to be standalone, to have our own identity. And then, like you're talking about, Oklahoma State releasing a statement as well. Greg Sankey saying he's not going to comment on speculation. This is a much different response, like you mentioned, Bill, than this is inaccurate. A lot of times we hear that, right? I don't know where you're getting your sources, but you have inaccurate information. We completely deny that this has happened or anything like that. Yeah, you're not hearing that. I mean, this is as close to an admission that, yeah, this is in the works that you could possibly get, I think, from the powers that be. Patrick, what's your take on the situation, your analysis here?
I've gone back and forth.
Gotcha.
I've gone back and forth on it. Like, I think it would be cool. I would love for Norman and Austin trips to be on the road schedule every couple years and be able to make those trips. So I guess selfishly I like it, but I also, I don't know. I mean, you guys didn't grow up with the Big 12, right? So it's hard for me to know. I mean, it just feels like that's all I've ever known is the Big 12, and I like that it's all the Texas schools, and I like that they play each other. And I'm just thinking mostly of like Bedlam. I guess they could always just make that a non-conference game, and that's probably what would happen. And Oklahoma would just play Oklahoma State at the end of the year. But I don't know. It would take some getting used to, but I guess it always does. I'm sure it's it's probably weird for people to think of in the state of Texas to think of Texas A&M and Texas not being in the same conference, because all I ever hear about is that how that rivalry used to be great. So I mean, maybe seeing that game. I just don't like losing rivalries. I just think I like when teams hate each other for a reason, and if Texas and Oklahoma came to the SEC, there would be really no history there, and they would hate them because they're big, like Oklahoma because they're successful, and Texas because they're Texas, and Texas thinks they're the best even though they haven't been that good for a while. I don't know. It's not built-in hatred between the two, and it would feel a little bit strange. But selfishly, I want to make the road trips.
Chris on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line this morning saw something about this rumor. Someone tell Texas we already have a diva in the SEC. It's Florida. To your point about the rivalries, though, rekindling the Texas and Texas A&M rivalry would be something, but it's not SEC specific. I think is what you're getting at, right? It's not familiar to us yet. That would almost feel like you're stealing a rivalry, you're plucking it, and the logistics of this thing. I guess 11 of the 14 teams in the SEC have to approve this kind of move, adding someone else to the conference. Texas A&M clearly against it. Missouri, I've seen also against it, the other Big 12 team that's made this move, but that still leaves 12 SEC teams. And this comes down to where Casey's coming in on this, on the YouTube live stream. He says ESPN is definitely brokering this. I mean, absolutely, this is a money thing, right, Bill? And that's where your point, I think, super conferences, good for fans. Amazing to add. I mean, if you're a conference and you're looking to strengthen your conference, right now it's tough to get much better than Texas and Oklahoma in the country, I would think.
Yeah,
but
Notre Dame's out there, but you're exactly right.
Notre Dame
To take those two is I mean, and let me just make another point on this that I believe on this. When I say conference championships, part of me, and see if I can word this correctly the first time, there is a lot of me that now believes that Texas and Oklahoma, the reason, not just money, I don't think Texas and Oklahoma are necessarily hurting for money, but they're looking around, and this 12-team playoff, remember, your conference champions get in, but then after that, it's the committee trying to decide who can get in. And if you've played an SEC schedule, and say what you want, but if you play that SEC schedule and you have 2 losses, maybe even 3 losses, you're still going to be in the running potentially for the 10, 11, 12 spot. Now, this is something I really didn't see coming because I've kind of said, look, you're going to have teams there aren't going to have to play 17 games, the 10, 11, 12 seeds. But if Oklahoma's a 3-loss team with, one season a loss to Alabama, a loss to like a top 5 Georgia, and a loss to like another top 5 team that's in the SEC or something, it's hard to say that they don't deserve to be in the playoff if those are their losses, and you compare them against everybody else. This is another angle of it I see is teams setting themselves up to constantly be in discussion because we've seen the Big 12 get left out of what was it, TCU several years ago. They got jumped, I think, by Ohio State. I believe it was. I could be wrong. But
So TCU's not trying to get out. I don't
TCU
think
has
it's a
nowhere
Big
to go.
12 thing. I mean, Oklahoma's
Nobody wants
won.
TCU.
Well, exactly, but no one for Oklahoma. I mean, they've made college football playoff. They went to national championship in the BCS era. Like, they haven't gotten snubbed that much.
I think they're setting.
Have they even gotten snubbed? Like, when has Oklahoma been snubbed when they thought that they deserved to get in? Ohio State did. Ohio State thought they deserved to get in a couple years ago.
I think some of this is setting yourself up for this 12-team playoff. I think money is driving it. Maybe ESPN is driving it.
Isn't that like a lack of foresight, though? I mean, like Oklahoma, you're going to sign what? How long are the contracts for them to be in the conference? When they say we want to be in the SEC, how long are they signing on for?
Well, you're not necessarily signing a contract to be in a conference. You can get out of that at any point. What Tim's point is, you sign the media rights that guarantees the revenue that you would get from television rights goes to the conference, and then that conference goes back. I mean, you can leave a conference at any time. You're not tied into a conference by contract, to my knowledge. I don't think that's how it's working, but I think it's the media rights. But it's an interesting situation. And now, as I heard this yesterday, I went instantly back to Greg Sankey's opening remarks at SEC Media Day about how the times are changing and how the game is evolving. I don't remember the exact quote. I know he used a Bob Dylan song to kind of reference it. But this to me is what I've always thought would happen. It's just kind of crazy that it's going to happen this way. I thought you'd end up with super conferences. And it looks like the SEC has gone out. It looks like the SEC has gone out and brokered a deal with two massive programs to bring them in.
Well, again, those media rights that Oklahoma and Texas have signed with the Big 12, and the Big 12 have signed with ESPN and Fox, all expire in 2025. Just got several texts in. Chris Y., West Virginia fan, says, "Consider me in full-blown panic mode right now." Todd, an Alabama fan, said, "Bring them on." As an Alabama fan, I could care less who joins the conference. Couldn't care less. And then he says Oklahoma, Texas would probably be in the West with A&M, Alabama, and LSU. So the top 5 teams in the country would probably come from the SEC West each year. Roll Tide, he adds. FSU Chris says, "Give me some of Texas. The ACC should take Notre Dame and TCU." Gene, super conferences would be bad for college football. It's already corporate enough. Gene, I don't know how a super conference would be bad for college football here. From a fan standpoint, from a college football product standpoint, I think it's a pretty good thing. From an individual school standpoint, like from Texas A&M standpoint, I get it. I was reading an article on The Athletic. They did that breakdown that we talked about extensively with Josh Kendall and his Clemson counterpart, Grace Rayner, talking about recruiting in the state of South Carolina, and some anonymous high school coaches talking about the relationship they have with Clemson and Carolina and how things have gone down. Well, they did the same type of article in Texas. And the main thing I got out of that was Texas A&M has a big-time advantage with the SEC. And it is resonating with the high school coaches and players. And if this happens, obviously that would go away. Jimbo Fisher was asked about this thing yesterday. SEC Media Day says, "I just worry about A&M." You know what I mean? Listen, we have the greatest league of all. I don't know how I feel about it. So to me, this week has been really, really odd in that SEC Media Days, the typical coach speak or player perspectives have almost been overlooked or been relatively humdrum. And it's a story like this. Yesterday, what did we talk about most of the day? It wasn't $1 million quarterback from Nick Saban. It was
that coaches being cool or not cool. It's a big part of it.
Right. But mostly it was college football expanding to 12 teams and what Sweet said about it in college football playoff. And then you have this. Texas and Oklahoma possibly joining the SEC. I didn't see this coming at all, Bill, because I thought 14 was plenty. And so then the question remains, if this is a possibility or likely, then where does it stop? Do you stop at 16? Do you end up going until you only have 2 conferences basically in major college football? I don't know where it stops, and I'm not convinced that it's good for the individual schools from a competitive standpoint. Do you think this benefits South Carolina, for instance? I think that's where we'll take the conversation next. As a Gamecock fan, what do you think about Oklahoma and Texas and their interest in the SEC? 803-404-6100 is the number into the program. Love to have your opinion. You can call or text that number, 404-6100. You can also check us out on the video stream, Facebook, YouTube Live, Twitter as well. We got Chris, Casey, David, a bunch of you guys up early this morning and checking us out on the video stream. Would love to see where this thing goes. And I'm really shocked on a Thursday morning, on the last day of SEC Media Days, we're talking about Oklahoma and Texas and the possibility of joining the SEC. But it should be a fun conversation. You're listening to the early game here. It's 107.5 The Game.
Thinking about refinancing your house, maybe getting a lower interest rate, now is the time to do it. Give Jacob Crowder and Brian Kovar, the mortgage guru team at First Palmetto Bank, a phone call today, 803-719-1005. Jacob and Brian are out there helping people all over the Midlands save money by refinancing, getting a lower interest rate. It doesn't take long to do either, about a 5-10 minute phone call. Just see what you can get approved for. Check your interest, your current interest rate versus what you could be able to get. And then maybe find out if you can get a little bit of money back. If you got some equity in your home, you might be able to put a little money back in your pocket, pay off a credit card, put yourself in a better financial situation. Again, it's just about a 5-minute phone call away. That doesn't take very long. 803-719-1005. You can email Jacob, the letter J, Crowder, CROWDER at firstpalmetto.com is the way to do that. Again, the important part to remember, it's just a short phone call. Find out what you're approved for, maybe what you got in your house already, and then how much money you can get back, and then go from there. It's definitely worth the time to do it. 803-719-1005. He's the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. All right, let me get some coffee real quick.
All right. Responding to the personal text line, asking what I've heard about this rumor. I've heard what everybody else has heard, but I kind of read the tea leaves like Bill does in this. Oh, inside information here. Legit.
This is not what Gamecock Larry wanted to talk about, surprisingly. He wanted to talk about Bryce Young.
Well, is he gonna throw down the ultimatum that he's not watching college football now, the pros? And
he said it was crazy, and then I asked him, I was like, well, what do you think about Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC? And he was just went, I don't know. he wanted me to try and convince him one way or the other how he should feel. I was like, I don't know, man.
That's awesome. More gentlemen, David, Duck, Chris.
What is Dogman talking about with all the hospitals around here? Equating this to hospitals.
I don't know. Let's see.
So look what they're doing with all the hospitals.
Let's see if I can read this thing. Think about it as a business move. All the big businesses either buy you up, and that's how they control money and power. Look at the hospitals around here, what they are doing in and around the East Coast. It's business moves and money driven. I don't know. I guess maybe they were locally owned and now they're tied into a larger group.
Is Dogman a doctor?
At some point, we got to get into, and I don't know how many people called it, but Nick Saban's response to the college football playoff expanding as well yesterday, because that made Dabo Sweeney's response sound extremely intelligent.
I heard. Did you guys end up hearing the Dion audio?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched the video.
I didn't see the video. I don't hear the audio.
It's definitely less. It's definitely weaker than it is presented in print. Does that make sense? Are you with me?
Yeah, but I don't know how I would have handled it if I was the reporter, because he's like, no, don't be calling me that. Don't be calling me. You don't call Nick that. He's like, yes, I do.
All right, Dion.
Yeah, that's what I would have said too, because he was like, Dion was telling him he's like, you don't call Nick Saban Nick. He's like, yes, I do. I always call him Nick. I don't tell me what I call him. Like,
and the fact that it started with him, it seemed like he was taking one last question. And he's like, let's go to Nick. He's a good guy. That's how it started with the reporter.
Yeah, that was. I pointed that out.
He's an Ole Miss beat reporter.
Right.
Yeah, he's like, let's go. Let's make sure it's like Dion decides he's gonna take Nick because this is already scripted out.
Right.
I think I would have done exactly the same thing. All right, Dion.
Well, especially when you're zooming it up, you're just sitting in your own house.
Otherwise, he's already
wearing a tie. He was respecting the media day by wearing a tie on Zoom. The reporter. Okay, good for him.
All right, Coach Prime. That's what I'm going to call you. You go by Coach Prime. That's more respect. Calling you Coach Prime is more respectful than me, a grown man, calling you by your first name. All right. I would have just said Coach as sarcastically as possible. And like, is that what you want? You want me to condescendingly call you Coach?
Just call. All right, bro.
King Mr. Sanders or Mr. Dion. I'm gonna call him Mr. Dion.
Well, you heard the question to Saban. Would you
about the name? Yeah.
Like to refer to you as Nick, head coach Nick, coach. It was a pretty weak response. Like, I don't really care, but everyone deserves to have the expectation of how they're to be addressed.
That's not an easy question for Nick Saban to answer, because he obviously wants to be on great terms with Dion. Who wouldn't? But
why?
Because everybody likes Dion. I like Dion still, but that was just dumb. I didn't understand any of that. I've never seen Dion put his foot in his mouth like that before.
Whoa! I wonder if Anthony's hanging out with your dork friend.
He went to Knoxville.
Get away! Get out of there now, Anthony.
Wait, I thought you liked the town.
Yeah, make up your mind.
I was just kidding.
Oh, David Lee. Don't get David Lee on us today.
You're up.
Houston Chronicle reporting. Texas and Oklahoma have reached out to the SEC, very interested in joining the conference, and in the response last night, very, very quiet, or certainly not what you would get from these schools, the SEC, if this was absolutely not going to happen. It was the old, well, things change. Yeah, like that was the response from everybody, right? Things change, but I'm not going to address anything specifically right now, or just going to talk about this season and the whole thing. Well, Oklahoma State didn't do that, I guess. Texas A&M clearly concerned about this, and Bill, that reading the tea leaves, I'm exactly with you. It seems like this is pretty far down the path to happening. Again, 2025 is kind of the end game in this for Oklahoma and Texas with the Big 12, where media run out. Their television contracts are done in 2025, the Big 12 right now. If you're thinking about the Longhorn Network or concerned about that at all, well, that's ESPN's anyway. That would just dissolve into the SEC network. It's not a main concern at all. I think that contract runs through 2031, but could easily be resolved because Casey's point was ESPN's got to be brokering this sucker. From a money standpoint, how does this make sense for the I get it that the SEC would have a bigger piece of the pie, and clearly Texas and Oklahoma are valuable college properties. But how valuable, I guess, is my question, Bill. From a money standpoint, we know that money drives everything in big time college athletics like this. Do you have a good sense of how this works out in the SEC's favor, or for a school like South Carolina? That was my point going into the break. How is this advantageous? I would imagine the yearly payout is going to be a little bit higher, but in the long run, is this a good move for the University of South Carolina if Oklahoma and Texas join the conference they're in the SEC?
No, it's not a good move. It's not a good move for Auburn. It's not a good move for Kentucky. It's not a good move for Vanderbilt. It's not a good move. That's why Missouri would block it. No, it athletically, in terms of on the field, it benefits nobody. I mean, even Alabama, it doesn't benefit. I don't know how they would go about doing the divisions. Again, there's so many other branches to this, but no, it benefits. It doesn't benefit anybody on the field. It doesn't necessarily benefit Texas and Oklahoma on the on the football field. Maybe it helps Texas and Oklahoma, who already.
There's no one it helps from a football perspective, is there?
Yeah, no, from a football perspective, this does nothing for nobody.
And it hurts who they're leaving too. I mean, I think the biggest loser is probably those other schools in Texas, at least from a fan base standpoint. Like if you're a Baylor fan and you get the chance to play Texas every year and maybe beat Texas, that's the biggest thing you can do that year, right? And now you're gonna maybe get swallowed up by the Pac-12 and play Washington, who's 25 hours away from you. You couldn't care less about. Like, yeah, football-wise, I don't think it helps anybody.
No, it doesn't. I mean, again, Dennis Dodd. This is let's just say this. This is why I really believe something. So many people have jumped on this. National writers, whether you like them or not. Dennis Dodd has got a big article up that says Texas and Oklahoma's inevitable Big 12 departure will linger, even if SEC move isn't swift. And he points out in here about how the SEC as a whole, and I don't know if it's as a whole, because I thought this was where we would be taking the show until the afternoon. Nick Saban sat on the set of the SEC network yesterday. This was not at the podium. And his response to the college football playoff and the expansion of that were ridiculously bad. So bad that I was like, well, Dabo Swinney sounded really smart yesterday. Dabo had some good points. Nick Saban is talking about how, what could happen in this college football playoff? We could have to go to Wisconsin in December. It's cold up there. He literally pointed out going to Madison in December and how cold it is. And he said, when I was down here in Houston coaching in the NFL, we had to go to Buffalo. Do you know how hard it was to get the players to go outside to play in Buffalo in December? And I'm thinking, what?
It was really weak. It was like he was caught off guard, or I guess he thought that would be a good answer. Maybe he'd been advised not to state the opinion that he wanted to state. I don't know.
Yeah, and then he went into something about the bowls and how they should mean something, and I'm thinking they're already done. But back to this, it says the SEC favors college football playoff expansion that would include the 12 best teams. And as Dodd points out, if it turns out this way with Texas and Oklahoma, the SEC could wind up with 6 of those 12 teams if it adds Texas and Oklahoma to the fold. And I think that's part of it. I mean, that's the part that may stink for college football, is if some of this happens and in the way the committee, there's so many more things that have to happen. So we're all talking in hypotheticals this morning. And really anybody can text in or weigh in with a hypothetical, and there's no way that any of us can, really, really deny it. But yeah, it could honestly just turn into a round robin tournament for the SEC. Not a round robin, but it could turn into a tournament for the SEC if some of these things go the way that they could end up going. And I don't know if college football fans would love that.
Well, you want to see the best team. I think that's what it comes down to. I don't know if a Clemson fan feels that way, right? If half of the 12-team tournament would reside and come out of the SEC. But I think most college football fans want to see the best teams play. Like we've seen it in the Final Four before. What was that, in that 85 Final Four? We had 3 of the 4 teams from the Big East, I think. You've seen conferences dominate postseasons before. We've seen it in College World Series. We see it nearly every year. 3 4 of the teams in the 8-team field there at the College World Series are from the SEC. But this is different because we've never seen a 12-team playoff in major college football. And what impact would this have? I think you're right, Bill. If Texas and Oklahoma jump to the SEC, we're talking about dominoes falling everywhere else. We've already seen it the last time you got super conferences. That was somebody's point on the text line. Isn't the SEC already a super conference? It's a great point. That's from Nick. It's already the SEC, and then everybody else. I think it would be great to have them from a revenue standpoint. But that's 2 more teams that can recruit by saying, come play SEC football. And that from a Texas A&M or Missouri standpoint, I understand why that's a big negative. But again, 11 out of the current 14 schools have to approve this move. Bill, do you think it would happen simply from a revenue standpoint, especially knowing where athletic departments sit as we sit here today, coming off probably their most brutal year, maybe ever last year because of all the COVID concerns and lack of revenue generated from ticket sales mostly?
Well, I mean, again, it's speculation, but it seems like this is going to happen. And the reason I say that is you're still talking what would appear to be 4 years down the line, 2025. I think we would all assume that financially most schools by 2025, 2026 in that area will have recovered and kind of be back to status quo financially. Maybe it won't, maybe it will, but obviously in the SEC with some of the payouts that you'll get on a yearly basis. Remember now, the SEC has signed a new deal with, I guess, Disney. I guess is how we should phrase this because it's ABC, ESPN, but that's owned by Disney. But there is a new television deal that's in the works where the SEC, we're going to see some of it this year because your opener, for those of you staying home, the South Carolina opener is on ESPN Plus. So now you got to have the ESPN Plus subscription to watch the game. It's not going to be on the SEC alternate network. It's not going to be streamed on the ESPN app. You're going to have to actually own the ESPN Plus thing. So you've already seen some of this coming into play with this new ESPN ABC deal for SEC schools. Adding Texas and Oklahoma, I don't know the specifics of it and how you could rework a television contract or how financially it necessarily will benefit the conference. What I would ask, and this is again going back to what somebody's already brought up, I believe. I believe now something's going to happen here. We're going to 16-team super conferences. If you got to go to a 16-team super conference, who are the 2 teams you want to add? Do you want to go all out? I mean, these are the 2 best teams you can add, Texas and Oklahoma. If you're a South Carolina fan, maybe you're wanting to go North Carolina State like a Virginia Tech and try and poach them from the ACC. But the ACC is pretty strong right now. The ACC is a pretty stable league. I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen. So I think the ACC is going to make a move on Notre Dame and then be very selective. Do they want to go to the Texas market and try and grab a TCU? The ACC has always been about basketball. Would they want to go grab Kansas? Well, let's be honest, Kansas isn't going to threaten anybody in football in the ACC, but you up your basketball. Maybe the ACC says, well, we're not going to be able to really do anything.
Right.
Well, but you get my point. Like I realize the easiest thing in the world is to say, oh, you know what, we really would rather have North Carolina State and I don't know, pick Duke or pick an ACC school that you think you want to get. I don't think that's realistic. What is realistic is Texas and Oklahoma see the Big 12 as a sinking ship and are saying, hey, we want out. We want out. We're available. We're free agents. I don't see North Carolina State or Virginia Tech or, go up the road a little bit, Maryland. I don't see them doing that. So I don't think those are viable options. I think your options are Texas, Oklahoma. Sure, if you want to go down the road to TCU, Baylor, we're not going to do that. But your other options are Central Florida, Memphis, Houston. 16 teams are coming. The question is, what 2 teams do you want?
When you say the ACC is going after Notre Dame, didn't they already do that? Isn't the ball in Notre Dame's court? Like, what are they going to do?
Well, yeah, I think
Notre Dame's going to join if they want to. Like,
I think
where we're at.
I think the ACC got a leg up on the Big Ten last year with how they were able to get Notre Dame in the league, and now I think what you're going to see is the rush now my opinion, if all this comes to fruition, is to say, all right, now we all got to go to 16. Hey, who does the Big Ten go after?
Iowa State,
Yeah.
Nah.
Kansas. I don't know.
Yeah, you got to go after some. I think we might be looking at it in the wrong way. Like Andrew had mentioned, he would prefer to see NC State and Virginia Tech join the SEC. But I think we're looking at it from a fan standpoint or maybe a regional standpoint. I think these conferences only look at it from a revenue generating standpoint. I mean, Bill, you said the two teams you would go after, Oklahoma and Texas. I don't disagree that they would be tremendous additions to the conference. But if you're looking at expanding the footprint like the last time this happened, when it went from 12 to 14, right? That was all about Texas A&M and Missouri and getting other television markets in there. Then you would go after a West Coast team, right? You'd love to get in the LA market if you're the SEC, or the Chicago market, I would imagine, if you're just looking at it from that standpoint. Patrick, you got a weird response.
No, I'm just thinking of all this. Just like the Waco, Texas is going to be in the Pacific 12, and Missouri's already in the Southeastern Conference, and Kansas is going to be in the Atlantic Coast Conference. It's just going to be such a joke.
Texas and OU provide no value aside from softball, volleyball, and possibly baseball, Noah says. Geographically and culturally, it's a big stretch. If anything, to benefit college football, we should bring back regionalized conferences like the Southwest Conference. Noah, what do you mean they bring no value? They bring the exact opposite. They bring a ton of revenue generating value. And that's how these conferences are making money. I mean, that was I think the point earlier from Chris about you got to think about it like a business. And from the corporate standpoint in our country, this is how things have worked in the last couple of decades, right? Corporations end up buying up the mom and pop stuff. The regional bank branch becomes part of a national corporation, international corporation. It certainly seems like this is where we're heading. Les hit us up, says it's coming to 5, 16 team super conferences that will break away from the NCAA. Bill, as you were talking about it earlier, the comments from Mark Emmert last week popped up in my head. And the idea that the college football playoff is going to move to a 12-team expansion, but the fact that the Notre Dame athletic director was part of the committee that came up with this, and yet in this plan, Notre Dame, as it sits today, would not be able to get a top 4 seed and a bye. That's always been really fishy to me. So it seems to me like there's no way you would do that as a Notre Dame athletic director unless you had another plan to get into a conference and to give your university a chance to do that. Yeah, David C. says always follow the money. No doubt that. 803-404-6100. Again, the way you can call or text us. We see you on the Love Chevy phone lines. Our two favorites, Gamecock Larry and Clemson Sean. We'll do that when we come back. It's the early game here on 107.5 again.
You're clear.
Oh, we're heading toward football season. It's fun to really be at least in some form of a discussion regarding actual football, not the off-season stuff and whether it comes to fruition or not. But when you get to football season, you got to be rested and ready to watch your favorite team. Sleep Number Bed can help you do that. Trust me, it's helped me tremendously. Put the Sleep Number setting on 55, and I'll wake up rested, refreshed, ready on Saturdays for a huge day of college football. You can do the same. Discover proven quality sleep. You can save $1,200 on select Sleep Number 360 smart beds and adjustable bases, plus special financing subject to credit approval. Minimum monthly payments required. See sleepnumber.com for details. However, this deal ends Monday. So you got today, tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday. Get to a Sleep Number store. 2 to choose from, one in Irma on Harbison Boulevard across from Buffalo Wild Wings. The other in Columbia, 2 Notch Road across from Sand Hills Mall. You can visit them on the web, sleepnumber.com. Again, right now, the deal going on. Save up to $1,200 on select Sleep Number 360 smart beds and adjustable bases, all with special financing. Again, subject to credit approval, minimum monthly payments required. See sleepnumber.com for details. Make the switch to Sleep Number today and find out what a great night of sleep is truly like.
Mhm.
Oh boy.
Patrick, how you holding up in there? Got the traffic reports going like usual? Thanks, man.
Yeah, that's what I just did. I think we're going to be able to do 2 breaks for the rest of the show.
Okay.
7 o'clock is not that packed.
I barely got any bacon yesterday, Anthony. I mean, you got 16 people in the house. 7 boys, ages 6 to 13, I think we're at. Bacon doesn't last long.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, it sounds like you better be by the griddle when it
Exactly.
when it's
Why do you think I was thinking that?
otherwise you're getting some scraps.
Has there ever been leftover bacon
Great question.
anywhere?
Not at my house.
Yeah, I made a mistake. A few years ago, I went on a big Bloody Mary kick, and so I would always make like 3 extra pieces of bacon, 2 or 3 extra pieces of bacon to put in the Bloody Marys, and I'd have like 1 Bloody Mary, and then I'd be like, oh, I don't know if I can drink a second one of these, so I'd have 2 extra pieces of bacon, but I'd kind of forget about them because I'd be walking around drinking Bloody Mary, and then I'd come back at like 3 o'clock and they've been sitting out all day. That's the one time I'd be like, yeah, I'm just gonna throw that away. And so it was not intentional left out, bacon in terms of eating bacon. It was going to be used in a drink, but I did that a time or 2. I've gone away from the Bloody Marys. I just can't. I don't know. It's not a summertime drink in the morning. I think that's a cold weather fall drink because it's heavy.
I don't believe in that. I don't believe in seasonal or weather relevant food or drinks. I'll eat hot soup on a 100-degree day.
Are you serious?
Who cares? I'll eat or drink what I want, no matter what the weather is.
What a hot take. Good, David. Very good, man. I'm sitting on the porch right now. Good weather. Yeah, you're having mimosas in cold weather. What are you doing? I don't buy it, Patrick. I don't buy it.
Mimosa. But mimosas, we're on a big mimosa kick.
You're up.
Patrick, I say we just put them on at the same time. Let them fight it out together. Our buddies, Gamecock Larry and Clemson Sean, you feel confident? Patrick's filling in for the great Jen Jensen producing in the Herndon Chevrolet Studios in downtown Columbia this morning. As a relatively inexperienced producer, we're challenging his technical acumen right now.
We can definitely do it.
Okay, let's do it.
I can't control them if one starts talking over the other. They're both at the same volume, so.
We all understand how that goes anyway. We have no control on this show. We're just trying to keep it on the rails for 3 hours every morning. To the Love Chevy phone lines we go, bravely, to speak to 2 of our favorite callers. Favorite 86-year-old caller, Gamecock Larry, and Clemson Sean, both weighing in this morning.
Conversation on this show and a time for college athletics where Oklahoma and Texas are reportedly interested interested, that is, in joining the SEC? First, just one-word answers for you guys. Yes or no? Are you for Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC? Gamecock Larry, you're first. Yes or no?
Yes, but it ain't gonna happen.
Well, it's close to one word. Not bad. Clemson Sean.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's defer to our experienced caller here. Our favorite, I think it's fair to say, our probably the most legendary caller we've had in the history of 107.5 The Game. Gamecock Larry, why do you say it's not going to happen, sir?
Well, I'll tell you, it ain't gonna happen for you say to 2025, but it don't make no difference. They can bring him on because by that time, Shane Beamer and his staff's gonna have the Gamecocks every year in the top 10. Go Gamecocks.
Clemson Sean, your rebuttal.
So, as one of the two top premier teams in all of college football, and obviously the number one team in the state, we could care less who you guys bring in. You can bring in Texas, Oklahoma, the Dallas Cowboys. We'll beat those bums too. We are a premier college football team. We're going to beat everybody. National championship again this year. And if you're going to add two more bums to the ACC, go ahead and bring in Notre Dame, and I'll take West Virginia.
Wow, just
isn't that what it already is? The SEC just beats each other up, so by the time they play Clemson, they're too tired and they've hurt each other. So what if Texas and Oklahoma were going to join the ACC?
We beat those bums too. Doesn't matter what conference they're in. I don't care.
Fair.
I'm not all about this conference flag. I fly one flag and it's got a white ball on it. I don't care what other conference you're in.
ooh, saucy. Clemson Sean is saucy this morning. Gamecock Larry, I know this is
Clemson Sean.
There we go. You guys go ahead.
Isn't it a word?
Clemson Sean, you need to tell old Dabo Sweeney he needs to take some speech therapy or lesson or something how to speak on it when he comes out of talking about all this. I don't forget what I was going to say, but I guess I need some speech therapy. But I don't know what Dabo needs some speech therapy.
Take that.
Well, I'm going to sign you and Dabo up for the same class, 8 a.m. next Monday morning.
If you was in the SEC, you would not win the championship 1 out of 5 years. Alabama would take it to the woodshed.
5 out of 5, Larry. 5 out of 5.
Okay.
Every year we be the SEC champions, baby. Every year.
Okay, buddy. But I'll see you on October, the last game of this season. I'm going to give you 13 points. By that time, the Luke Doty and the Shane Beamer train's going to Beamer steamer's going to be on the road. We're going to take you to the woodshed, buddy.
November 27th.
Can't wait to derail that train, Larry.
Gamecock Larry and Clemson Sean. Thank you, gentlemen. That was something. Wow. Speech therapy classes for Dabo Sweeney and Gamecock Larry, apparently. I mean, I give some credit to Clemson Sean for staying on script there, just sticking up for his school. No ACC allegiance at all. And I got to give – did I hear that correctly, Bill, that Gamecock Larry will be giving away 13 points in the rivalry matchup between Carolina and Clemson later this year?
I think he was probably going to give away 21 since the game's in October. Be all right from that standpoint.
November 20th.
Or maybe they're just going to hang
10.
That's why he said he'll see him in October.
We might have to wait until November 26th to have those two guys back on. Hour number 2 coming up here on the early game.
This is Gamecock basketball head coach Frank Martin, and you're listening to
Nice job, Patrick, on that one.
That worked pretty well.
Oh, and you stuck the timing. I figured it was worth a shot there.
I think it worked.
Oh boy.
I love it. Morning, Rodney. Anthony, next time you do the 1075 The Bar live stream with us, you got to give that impersonation the entire time.
Oh goodness.
Oh, man, that sunrise is on point right now, Bill.
All right, I'll get out of the way and just allow
Thank
you.
you.
Of course, you're looking over the Atlantic Ocean. You should be seeing the same.
No, I
thing.
can't see. Yeah, I can barely see the ocean from here. It is a ways. You really gotta. It's only about a 30-second walk down that way.
There's a brown bear that cannot be contained running rampant through Tokyo right now.
Oh my gosh. What a nightmare. I mean, out of all the animals that you could put in there, brown bear would be in the top 5 of most terrifying.
It was right outside the softball stadium and then left and then
Well,
came
there
back.
is no softball stadium that I've seen. I've only seen a baseball stadium where they've cut out the softball field.
Yeah, the Azuma Sports Park.
I mean, I was just blown away by that the other day. We were just flipping around here. Like, they couldn't even make their own softball stadium for the Olympics? Like, high schools have softball fields. What are we doing here?
Yeah, that is strange. Wow, bear sightings are up in Japan. Highest recorded in 5 years.
So top 5 animals that would be the most terrifying to be on the loose. What do you got?
If it's just one of them or like a pack of them.
One, singular.
Yeah, bears.
It's terrifying. Just the fact that you think that way.
Yeah. Outside of like the great cats, I mean, a lion would be pretty terrifying or a tiger would be really scary. Then a bear's right up there with them.
But
What are you talking about?
gator or crocodile?
I'm not really too scared of those. I feel so confident in my ability to evade one of them if I need
Wait,
to.
a gator or crocodile?
Yeah.
Patrick has reported.
I don't know exactly what conversation we're having right now, but I would say that I'd be more terrified of a gator or crocodile in the water because your movement in water.
No. This is not water based. This is a black bear is on the loose in Tokyo.
Boy, Tokyo's having a rough go of it right now, isn't it?
Yeah. See, I was thinking about that too, Josh, but I think it's so big that you would be able to maneuver pretty good against a hippo or a rhino. But it'd probably make the top 5 as well.
They're fast. I mean, a hippo, I don't know on land.
Straight line speed, surely.
They swim very fast. An elephant, an angry elephant, a bear, and then just pick the cat. I mean, tiger, lions, tigers, or like a panther. Be pretty scary.
Yeah.
If I knew there were just tons of snakes, that would be the number 1 seed. But just one snake, I don't know.
Right, just one. What about a wolf?
Yeah,
a wolf is scary.
I mean, a wolf is after you.
I don't know if it qualifies as scary, but and this kind of goes to but like they're saying where I live, just down the road, there started to be coyote sightings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And because those are kind of aggressive, and I think their teeth are pretty sharp. Like, they'll just, I don't think you worry about losing your life to a coyote or a human, but
you worry about your
second tier predators there. No way they're making my top 5.
There were coyotes in my neighborhood back home, and people were really worried about their pets.
Whoa, this sounds terrifying, Justin. Wife and I were hiking in North Carolina last month, narrow trail on a mountain, walked right up on a black bear, actually on the trail 25 feet away. I need the continuation of this story, sir. Don't leave us hanging.
Well,
That's a great one, Josh.
Does a wild boar come after you?
Bill, this is hypothetical here. A wild animal is on the loose in the city that you're in. What wild animal do you not want it to be? Boar is up there for me, Josh.
A wild animal is on the loose.
Feral hogs in Texas and all that area are pretty scary.
I would say a black mamba.
Yeah, see, just one snake in the city isn't. I'm with Patrick.
But see, the snake's just kind of hiding somewhere. You're walking by, it bites you, like you can't see it. I mean, that's potentially not like it's one thing if it's just out like on the sidewalk as you're walking down the road. I'm with you. But the fact that it could be like curly, you don't know. Maybe it climbed into an air duct in your office and now it's like up underneath your chair.
I think my neighbor had a copperhead fall from his garage.
Yeah.
Now my wife is terrified.
People get attacked by snakes coming out of their toilets all the time.
Oh,
all right. Wow, not all the time.
Dude.
Like this is it
all the time. Every year.
Not all the time.
Every year it happens at least once.
At least once a year on this planet. It happens all the time to people.
I bet snakes in toilet. I bet there have been multiple already in 2021.
Oh.
Not in America. I feel like that's something that is
not in
on
America.
I am disturbed now for the rest of my day.
2 weeks ago it happened.
Where?
Tableland? What's that? Huge snake bites man while he's doing business.
It's a good thing that I'm in the witness protection program and my facial expressions cannot be seen now.
Austria. Not Australia. Austria.
Interesting. Troy's top 5 would be a bear and 4 cats.
Yeah, I'm kind of with him on that.
Wait, we got to get Justin's continuation of the story while the intro rolls here in hour number 2. Stopped in our tracks, walked back the other way, unsure if it was a mama bear with cubs. No doubt it was at least 3 to 4 feet long. Retreated quickly, still 1.5 miles from the end of trail, longest 1.5 miles in your life, no doubt. Whew.
All right.
Jan's story is pretty interesting. Oh.
You guys missing out on a top 5 wild animal on the loose that you would not want. And bear is up there. This coming off a story, the video stream that we're doing there. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Sponsored by Buford Lending, by the way. If you want to watch the show, you can do that. It's a continuous stream of consciousness for the entire 3 hours from 6 to 9 every morning. Appreciate everybody joining us here. Like Troy just went with a bear and 4 cats, lion, tiger, panther, cougar. Was it the top 5? The animal he didn't want on the loose. Patrick was reading the headline that apparently there's a black bear on the loose.
Bear.
Sorry, brown bear.
Which I guess is a grizzly bear.
Right, that's worse than a black bear, right?
Worse.
Oh, no. On the loose in Tokyo now. The Olympics. Bill agreed. I had the exact same response. What else could go wrong? Did you have any disappointment? Keep track.
The nation of Guinea has left the Olympics as well.
Wow. Okay. At least there was a softball victory for Team USA yesterday. Is that correct, Patrick? You staying abreast of this information?
Yeah. So far, Team USA is 1-1. They beat Italy in softball and just got waxed in soccer. It was not good.
Okay. So that's and then opening ceremonies are tomorrow. I saw where someone that was in charge of this made some sort of joke and now has been fired. Man.
We got our flag bearers, Eddie Alvarez and Sue Bird.
Yep, that news came out yesterday. That will be who's carrying the American flag. And I didn't realize Eddie Alvarez, who played for the Marlins, now plays on the baseball team, has won a Winter Olympic silver medal, I think it was, in speed skating back in the day. That's pretty impressive. I guess it could become the first or one of the only to have a Summer Olympic gold medal or medal and a Winter Olympic medal. Crazy times for sure. And I started the show this morning. Our first hour was largely a discussion about the news popping in relatively late yesterday, right? About from the Houston Chronicle is where the report originated, I believe, that Texas and Oklahoma are interested in joining the SEC. And as opposed to previous stories where something like this has popped up, and then I read it and I say, oh, there's not much to this. What makes, I will put you in the same category as this, Bill, because I think we have the same take on this, the same analysis anyway. What makes us devote much more time and energy to this story was not just the story, not the fact that the 12 media rights come up in 2025 and the story says that Texas and Oklahoma have already informed the league that they're not going to renew. They're not going to re-up, basically. But the response from both Texas, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey, all of those. So a Texas spokesman just put out a statement, included speculation always swirls around collegiate athletics. We will not address rumors or speculation. Oklahoma statement, the college athletics landscape is shifting constantly. We don't address every anonymous rumor. And then Texas A&M's AD, we want to be the only SEC program in the state of Texas. Sounds highly concerned. Greg Sankey also going with the line, I'm not going to comment on speculation. Bill, when something's going to happen that gets out there, this is what you hear.
Yeah.
When something's not going to happen, or there is no possibility of it, or it's just factually incorrect, you hear that called out quickly, that sources have accurate information, that this report is, what's a classic line too? Patently false, I think is how some of these officials speak. But that's not what we're getting. And the details on this thing, 11 of the 14 SEC schools have to approve the move. So the question now becomes, if you're the University of South Carolina, do you put the check mark on this thing? Because I get it that Texas A&M doesn't want this to happen. Reading an article on The Athletic recently about college football recruiting bill, it's a clear advantage right now for Texas A&M in the state of Texas to wave that SEC flag. They got that one out there. So I get it why they don't want it. I get it why Missouri wouldn't want it either, because they have that advantage in their recruiting grounds over the former Big 12 opponents. But that still leaves 12 other SEC schools that do math pretty well. And if you bring in Texas and Oklahoma, that piece of the pie in college sports just grows larger and larger for your school. And I think the millions and millions of dollars, probably too much for other SEC schools to turn down. That's kind of how I see it. And I also see it, somebody hit us up on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. It would be the death knell of any chances that Carolina has to win an SEC championship if Texas and Oklahoma join. I don't disagree with that analysis necessarily. The road to an SEC championship, especially in football, gets even more difficult, I think, if you add Oklahoma into the mix.
That's not it's a hypothetical, just like we're dealing in hypothetical. You might not play, but that's under the assumption that you'd have to play one or both in a season. You might not have to play. You're not playing Alabama or LSU this year. Now who knows? Again, there's so many parts to this that we're talking about. Does it make it easier for South Carolina? No. Let's be clear about that. But let's also understand that, I was listening yesterday, and I think it was Mike Leach that was asked about doing away with permanent crossover teams. And he kind of made the point, part of the allure of the SEC is going to other stadiums and being able to experience the atmosphere and the passion and the tradition of those stadiums. And it kind of stinks when you might not make that trip, but once every about 8 to 12 years. And so depending on how they elect to do that, there's so many things that we need to find out about. And the only reason I say we need to find out about, because the way these answers have come about yesterday, Tim, and this is kind of what you were just saying, it feels like this is much farther down the line than just, Texas and Oklahoma are interested, or Texas is interested, but that's the point, is like, it feels like Greg Sankey has a plan already set in place. Now you go back to his comments, go back and re-listen to what he said now on Monday in his State of the SEC Union address there. And he talks about the times of changing, and he talks about the best days of college football being in front of him. What did he know? What does he know already that we don't know? Because you mentioned that he wasn't going to address this. The one that stood out to me was him basically saying, I'm only going to talk about the 2021 season. Well, all right. It's fair enough. But now we're all speculating on what's going to happen here in the future. And I don't know if part of the report is true that insinuates that the announcement of Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC is coming and within 2 weeks. I will say that feels a little extreme because then Texas and Oklahoma would, I guess, conceivably definitely play out this year in the Big 12. Boy, that would make for an awkward situation, right? And then are they going to play out the next 3 years in the Big 12? That's going to be worse, right? But I say all this because, it doesn't help. It doesn't help South Carolina. I mean, I guess as Jan is pointing out on the live stream and other people, let's say they stick with the 18 division model, you probably put Oklahoma and Texas in the West, probably. And then maybe you move Alabama and Auburn to the East. Well, that certainly is not going to help South Carolina. So, yeah, there's no formula here that helps South Carolina. Let's be clear about that. But, it's already tough enough for them the way everything's been structured. So I don't know if you don't play Oklahoma and Texas in the same year. Yeah, picking up Alabama and Auburn is not going to help. But this is going to happen. I think to me, what I see now, and it'll be interesting. The ACC had their media day, one of their media days yesterday. The other one is today. Dabo Swinney will speak up in Charlotte. The Big Ten will be kind of the one that I'll now be most interested to hear because I'm sure they will be asked about this and the possible conference realignment that could be coming. So I think big picture is college football now is setting the stage to move into a brand new era of what we consider college football. Name, image, likeness. I mean, that was the discussion. That's been put on the back burner now. The 12-team playoff, that's on the back burner kind of now. Now we're talking about almost a realignment of college football divisions and maybe even a break off, not from the NCAA, because remember, the NCAA doesn't control college football. We learned that more than ever last year when the NCAA said, hey, no college football this year. And the FBS said, yes, we're playing. You and the FCS can play in the spring. That's fine.
That's a cute little decision, NCAA.
Yeah, that's good for you. You're not going to play your FCS teams, but the FBS will be playing this year. And so the NCAA doesn't control college football. And it appears now more than ever the College Football Playoff organization is going to be the one who handles all of this. I'm sure there'll be a structuring of that to see who handles, everything move forward. And again, maybe that's where Mark Emmert was going with his comments. Now, if you think back on it a week and a half ago, maybe he was aware of something and basically saying it's time for the NCAA to step away from FBS football and not be in control of rules or regulations and punishments. Let another organization handle it. It's now out of our reach.
John from Pawleys Island weighing in on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, 803-404-6100. I think this Texas and Oklahoma thing will happen. You got to think this has to do with the expansion of the college football playoff. It only bulks up the SEC and makes a better case for more teams in the playoff. And so, yeah, Bill, as you were talking about everything that's happened with name, image, and likeness and the college football expansion in the playoff and now this, I don't think necessarily you can look at them as isolated events. Poor Troy says, I'm a traditionalist. I would hate for this to happen. You're a traditionalist now in college football, man. You're going to be grizzled with where we're at for sure. Let's see if we're going to be grizzled by our discussions on the Love Chevy phone lines this morning. Richard, patiently to kick us off on the Love Chevy phone lines in hour number 2. Hello, Richard. I'm good.
I sent y'all a text. I'm the one who sent the text about this will be the death knell for Carolina's chances. In fact, I think adding OU and Texas to the SEC would mean that Alabama, Auburn would move to the East, and that would relegate us to not only no championship chances at all, but to the second division, really, because we'd have Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, all on our side of the conference. It would make it virtually impossible for us to have a successful football program like that, in my opinion. It would be the worst move possible for South Carolina.
Well, I agree. I do, Richard. I agree with you, but I think you can also throw Tennessee in the same boat with South Carolina, Kentucky. You can make the case that Auburn it would. There's nobody that you're not wrong. It's just it benefits nobody, and it's not just South Carolina. I would say the same thing if they're having this discussion in Knoxville radio this morning. They're probably saying the same thing. This is the worst thing that could happen for us. In Lexington, Kentucky, the same thing. Fayetteville, Arkansas probably is saying the same thing. Obviously, Texas A&M screaming bloody murder right now that they don't want it to happen. So, in terms of on the field actions for the fan bases, I don't know of a fan base that's aside from Texas and Oklahoma is like, yeah, let's make this happen.
It's also purely hypothetical that they're just going to put Alabama and Auburn in the East, and then that's the way it's going to be. They could very easily go to 14 pods to make sure they keep their rivalries and have Ole Miss and Mississippi State together, have Auburn and Alabama together, have Florida and LSU together, whatever they want to do to make sure that those old school rivalries are always there, and then you'll just do a much larger cast of rotating SEC games.
Even in that, Richard's right. Like the schedule then is not easy.
No matter what,
there's nobody. There's no program that benefits from this.
Agreed.
There's no program.
Yeah, there's
so Richard,
two.
you're exactly right.
Aren't there two? Oklahoma and Texas.
But why?
Yeah.
Why?
But
having to compete with the SEC schedule is not going to be easier for them. I mean, Oklahoma basically goes undefeated or loses one game every year.
Right. From a championship standpoint, you're right. No one benefits from this if we're looking at it just from a conference champion standpoint. But I think we're looking at it the wrong way. And I get several of you have put it out there that you're doing the alignment right in the East and the West, and you'd move Missouri back over to the West, and it'd be geographically done, right? These Texas and Oklahoma joining the West, and then Alabama and Auburn coming over to the East. I understand where you're coming from. That makes logical sense geographically, but I think we're looking at it in the wrong way. We're talking about the Southeastern Conference adding Texas and Oklahoma, where Missouri currently resides in the Southeastern Eastern Division Conference. Clearly, rational thought process here isn't always followed. And who's to say you'd only have two divisions, right? I get it that's what they did when South Carolina joined back in the day. South Carolina and Arkansas hopped in, right? And they made it a 12-team conference originally. But why would you feel like you have to continue that model now? To me, what they're going to do is maximize the dollars. If you're clearly doing this as a money move, and absolutely that's what this is, then you're going to set things up to maximize the dollars. And I'm certainly not convinced that the Eastern and Western divisions would be the way you do that. I guess my overall question is, does this add to your disdain? If clearly it does for Troy, who says he's a traditionalist and would hate for any of this to happen, but does this start to border on completely screwing up the college football system that we've all grown up with and grown to love to some degree? And by system, I just mean that it's been relatively regional. Obviously, the latest round of realignment was 8 years ago or whatever it was, completely threw that out of whack. You've seen it. I mean, to me, when the ACC goes from Boston down to Miami, it's a geographical region that is out of control. The SEC going from Gainesville over to Texas A&M to Bryan, Texas is crazy. We've seen the Pac-12 expand and the whole thing. So we've seen it all over the country. But knowing, Bill, that you mentioned name, image, and likeness, that you mentioned college football playoff expanding, does this continue to tweak and change a sport that we all know and love? Does it change it too much is my question, I guess, when you're thinking about the next line of a big-time change for conferences and the power structure in the sport.
I mean, it's going to change everything's going to change the sport. And again, it's not just going to be realignment. It's going to be the name, image, likeness. It's the 12-team playoff, the sport. I think however you just worded it, if you're a traditionalist, you're going to be grizzled. Patrick, you don't remember the days of the Big Eight. I'm trying to remember what video football game it was, Tim, that we would play, maybe PlayStation or Nintendo. And you'd go on and you had to pick the 5 conferences, and the Big Eight was one of them. And, going all the way back to that, everything is different. And I think it's about to change, and we'll see. Who knows? Maybe this Texas Oklahoma thing does not come to fruition. I think the reason we're talking about it again so much this morning is, again, the answers or the responses that have come from the key people in this. Read Texas, the response by Texas. Was it Texas again? We're not the ever-changing landscape of college. Was it Texas or Oklahoma that used the ever-changing landscape of college football? Like, that's basically admitting, yeah, the landscape is changing. We're in the middle of doing something. We'll get back to you here. Greg Sankey basically saying, I'm not commenting on anything 2021 after this season. I'm not commenting on. I'm here to talk about 2021. Again, normally when something like this comes out, and from a reputable source too, the Houston Chronicle, this wasn't put up on some random blog on the internet. Hey, I heard it from my buddy's girlfriend's best friend at the barbershop. That's a reputable Houston Chronicle report that, honestly, Greg Sankey, Texas, Oklahoma, all could have shot down very quickly. Man. All could have put down very, very quickly yesterday, and nobody stomped it out.
To me, it's the response of the schools that would be negatively impacted that I go to, maybe even more than that. The Texas A&M saying, nope, we want to be the only Texas SEC school. And then Oklahoma State basically coming out and as the rival of Oklahoma, throwing Oklahoma under the bus and the whole deal. It's hard for me to wrap my brain around as we sit here on SEC Media Day number 4 that so much in the college football landscape has changed and seemingly is going to change. But that's where we are. Love to hear more of your thoughts. We see the live chat on the video stream blowing up there. That video stream, again, sponsored by Buford Lending. Anonymous Raj says, I'd love to see Texas and Oklahoma in the show with us. We're not SEC original gangsters. How'd you feel if we got turned away back in the day? Jan says, I look at it in the way that it could help our recruiting. Better players help build better competition and results. And he says the NIL was the start of screwing up the college football system. And now add this on top of it, and it's quite the cluster. Travis also weighing in and says, even with NIL, these players still aren't getting any of the money they generate for the school, though. And maybe Travis is hinting at more change to come or more revenue sharing. Or it is definitely changing right in front of us. Glad we could talk it out this morning, and glad you're a part of the program, however you're doing it, whether you're checking us out on the video stream on Facebook, YouTube Live, and Twitter, whether you're doing it on the original FM dial, the audio stream, the app. Appreciate you being a part of the show on quite the eventful Thursday morning in July. We'll keep it rolling. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game.
Your 24/7 sports station.
I'm feeling pretty good. Pretty good.
107.5 The Game.
Surprisingly, hanging out with the family, where we have up to 18 people in the same house, has not resulted in too many issues. Too many spills. So I think one broken wine glass is always the most major mishap we've had so far here this week at the beach for my family. I'm hoping your family is doing well as well. If you need some help around your house, though, keeping it looking its best, I recommend one carpet and air duct cleaning service. It's Zero Res. Zero Res has come out to my house a couple of times. One of the reasons why I suggest this to you is because I've seen it firsthand myself. Jesse came to my house. He hooks up his system to my water and then runs the hose and the system up my stairs. And it's a patented powered water deal that nobody else does. I was impressed with the results when he cleaned my carpets and area rug for me, also freshened up the tiles in the kitchen and the bathroom. My house looked and felt the best it's looked and felt for a long, long time. Also, more importantly to me, no harsh chemicals involved in the cleaning process that Zero Res did. I had nothing to worry about when it came to my 8- and 6-year-old, the 1-year-old being on the surfaces right after they were cleaned. Also, my carpets have stayed cleaner longer because there's no leftover soapy residue. Right now, 3 rooms of carpet cleaned, only $119, plus a free hallway. When you mention me, Tim Hill, book your appointment today. ZeroResColumbia.com is the website. 803-262-4020 is the phone number. That's Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
And from the Shepherd's Glass Traffic Center, Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality, shepherdsglass.com. Just one extra.
I'm guessing, since I'm not seeing any comments, that when I flip over the audio to get the phone audio in there, that it's going all right this morning.
Yeah.
All right. Bill's made the adjustment, and the sunrise continues to look beautiful. Yeah, Craig, that is crazy. 9 out of the top 10 teams in the country, basically, in the conference or on the schedule in college football. It's a pretty mind-boggling number. Patrick's doing a traffic update. Bill just unmuted you there.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, this is the other part of it. Cullen's talking about traveling to games. Yeah. Arkansas, Texas, Missouri. The fan who likes to travel and go to games is definitely getting left out of the mix here. This is appealing much more to Patrick's dynamic of sitting on the couch watching college football, being a TV consumer as opposed to a in the stands consumer. But with that being said, even though I lived in the state of Texas for 3 years, I never been to a college game in Austin or Norman. Would love to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it would be on a bucket. It would be on a bucket list for me to go to a game at some point, regardless of whether they're in the SEC or not.
Yeah, my buddy, West Virginia fan, hit me up on my phone. Says he is petrified.
Of what, though?
Well, you went to the Big 12
Right.
to join solid brands like Texas and Oklahoma, and then they jet on you.
I think West Virginia, out of all those, has the best chance to land on their feet. They've got some quality programs. I mean, if you're the ACC, again, you got to think about who you can take. And I think that's the other part. I agree with a lot of people. It'd be a lot. I would love to add NC State and Virginia Tech because of what everybody's talking about travel, about former rivalries, good games, fan bases. But those programs don't want to leave the ACC. They're stable. They're happy. They've got built-in rivalries already. They're content. Texas and Oklahoma is not content. And if it doesn't work, and here's the thing, Texas and Oklahoma are probably the ones that initiated this. And if they're looking to leave, they looked around and they looked at probably the Pac-12 and the SEC. And they said, you know what? We can make the most money in the SEC.
You think they looked at the Pac-12?
Huh?
You think they actually looked at the Pac-12, though?
Well, supposedly they did, 10 years ago.
Pac-12 is a joke now. Maybe their new commissioner is good. I don't know.
No, but I mean, they could go out there and they'd have more of a chance to really dominate the conference.
Yeah, I mean, they could just walk in and just be like, we call all the shots here, do exactly what we say. Why can't every SEC team have their own network now and just have it be like replays of old games? I think that's what they should do. Like the Roll Tide network or the Gamecock network, and they just play old games all the time. Because that's the only thing I've ever wanted to put on the Longhorn Network. Is sometimes I scroll through my ESPN app and it's like, oh, they're playing the Rose Bowl against Southern Cal. I'm like, all right, I want to watch that right now.
To me, what ESPN should do is just, because it has the rights to all the SEC schools, is have one SEC network, right? And then have 16, whatever it is, 14 dedicated alternate channels to running those games that you're talking about for individual schools, right? But have the SEC network still as kind of like the main hub, like main ESPN is.
Yeah, because I would get it being expensive. You had to worry about hosts for 16 different teams. You just play games, just run games.
Right. Basically that SEC takeover every day.
All the time, yeah.
It wouldn't cost them hardly anything, I would think.
No. Yeah, I'd love that. And then in football season, you just replay the game multiple times. Like South Carolina plays on Saturday, you just play it on Sunday morning, play it on Sunday night, play it once every day that week.
Then all they have to do is get the coaches show rights as well, throw those things in there. Could get easy programming too from the individual schools now during football season or basketball season.
I would actually love it if every school just had a tab on ESPN, and during the actual football season, they just replayed the game every day. Because it's too hard to watch every game live. And if South Carolina was playing Mississippi State coming up this week, I would want to just go back and watch Mississippi State's game on the app.
You know that's where it's going.
Yeah. Not just cross my fingers that somebody put a full-length YouTube video up on it.
I feel like I've heard this one before.
Old timey clip?
Yeah. I definitely didn't hear it live, let me tell you that.
It's a really long applause break on this clip. Yeah.
Houston Chronicle report: Texas and Oklahoma interested in joining the SEC have reached out, will not renew their media rights deals with the Big 12 in 2025 when those contracts run out that the Big 12 has signed. Response from Oklahoma and Texas: basically, nothing to see here. Everything's changing. Everything's always changing. No comment. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey: things change. No comment. Let's talk about 2021. Texas A&M says, no, we want to be the only Texas school in the SEC. Oklahoma State says we actually value tradition and history and the whole thing, basically throwing their rivals under the bus, which is why we think this will happen, or there is complete legitimacy. Somebody hit us up on the text line and said, well, imagine what the Big 12 is going to do to try to now keep Texas and Oklahoma. I don't know if they're going to try to do much. Tim going a different way on the Cool Care Heating Air text line this morning, 803-404-6100. Gentlemen, the arrogance and greed of the University of Texas has poisoned and destroyed every conference they've ever been a part of. They will show up on day one, thinking that they can call the shots, lived in Austin, have family in their administration. Trust me, the SEC will regret inviting them to the party. Any thoughts there?
Sounds like it's somebody talking about an ex-girlfriend.
She showed up day one.
Man, I know she's pretty. I know. Believe me, that's why I dated her. But you do not want to go there.
I mean, I think, I don't know. The SEC is a powerful conference, and you have other prima donna programs in this conference that feel like they run football. I mean, Alabama was basically able to shut down UAB football for a little while. Like I haven't seen Texas be able to shut down anybody's football program. Alabama basically said, "Hey, UAB, you're not going to be allowed to have football." And then they had to bring in what is his name? Bill, the guy who's there now. I can't remember his last name. He's had to resurrect that program. And I mean, like, you're right. Could there be some butting of the heads? Yes, but you also have to have a strong commissioner. And Greg Sankey is just that. I don't know who will follow him. I couldn't even give you like the next guy in line. I don't know how long Greg Sankey could go. Maybe he could go another 10 years. But you got to have a strong commissioner. So there is part of that. There's no doubt that Texas, with that money and with their tradition and their history.
If Josh Heupel thinks that Tennessee's got a nice orange logo,
he's not gonna. Yeah.
No, he's not gonna be happy when Texas comes in with those orange horns.
Billy, you're talking about Bill Clark there, the coach at UAB?
Bill Clark, thank you. Yeah.
I think that what this comes down to, though, in my opinion, is that conferences have always needed Texas more than Texas has needed the conference. I don't think that's the case in this instance. The SEC doesn't need Texas or Oklahoma, right? To what? I mean, I get it that if you can add them and make more money from a business standpoint, it's a smart move. But from a conference survival standpoint or anything like that, no one would argue that the SEC is not the top dog in the country. So I think if you come into that situation, this isn't the Mr. Nice Guy who isn't very popular dating the hot chick there, Patrick. It's not that situation. I know that's how Tim kind of made it sound like on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, but that's not this situation. I think that's the situation it has been, and that's been part of the issues that conferences have had with Texas. But Alabama doesn't need Texas right now. Florida, Texas A&M certainly doesn't need them
or want them.
Right. So this would be a much different situation. And man, Greg Sankey would have one of the most difficult jobs in sports if this is going to happen, keeping Oklahoma, Texas, Texas A&M, Alabama happy. Just those four, right? Not to mention the traditional SEC schools in Georgia and Florida on the other side of what I feel like is the country. I get it. It's on the other side. What a mess. So this would be a be careful what you wish for type scenario, I think. And from the University of South Carolina standpoint, Richard hit us up on the Love Chevy phone lines talking about how this would be the death knell for any kind of championship. Robert responding on the text line now, stop the crying, you babies. You sound like chickens and not Gamecocks. If you think we'll never have a chance, then you never did. Go Gamecocks. And from a competitive standpoint, as we sit here today trying to be as fair as possible and look at it as objectively as possible, I mean, no one can look at this objectively and say, oh, yeah, this increases South Carolina's chances or any of those other schools that you mentioned that basically haven't won SEC football championship. You can't do that. But my question, I guess, basically becomes from the University of South Carolina standpoint, from other schools in the SEC standpoint, how much of this decision, how much money does it take to say, yeah, this is a good move for us. This is something we need to do, because I feel like the selling point, Bill, would simply be this is the way that college sports are moving now. And what you talked about with the NCAA president coming out last week and saying, yep, we probably need to think about restructuring. That would, to me, be the explanation that Ray Tanner and other athletic directors give to their fan bases is that, hey, this is happening with us or without us. We want to be a part. We want to continue to be a part of the best conference in America. And this is just where college athletics is going now. This is why this is happening, and why it's a good move for us is to continue to compete against the best. But from a championship winning standpoint, man, that is just ridiculous. I think somebody hit us up and said, yeah, so now 9 of the 10 schools, best college football teams in the country are on the schedule. Great.
Yeah, so if you were doing like a winners and losers of Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC, I mean, the losers are basically every football program. Yeah. Certainly all of the Big 12. There's no shot the Big 12 could just add like SMU and Houston and say we're moving on without Texas and Oklahoma. They're doomed. And then the winners are who? Obviously ESPN, casual college football fans.
Well, that one I disagree with too.
Accounts.
The casual college football fan still goes to a game every now and again.
Or maybe the non-SEC fan. Like if you're just a fan in Maryland and you just like watching good college football, it'll be cool to watch Texas play Alabama in October.
It's the TV college football thing, right?
Yeah.
Because Jan hits us up, says, I've already modified my 5-year budget as we speak. I mean, already hit us up saying it's very difficult as it stands right now to follow South Carolina football to Arkansas or Missouri, Texas A&M. I mean, these are massive trips. Throw another one into the mix, and it just changes things. The economics change massively. But the question I have, Bill, is it even an option for a school like South Carolina in the SEC to raise its hand and say, nope, we're not doing it, man. This is not for us. Wouldn't the rest of the conference say, all right, then you're not for us, and we don't
Yeah, I mean,
as much as you need us.
what are the odds? They say, all right, fine, we'll go get another. Somebody else wants to join. We can easily replace you with Oklahoma State. How about that?
That's why I was surprised Missouri said no, we don't want it. I was thinking, oh, all right, well, I bet most people don't want you. Missouri stinks.
Yeah, I mean, you wonder. I think somebody, I forget who, and I apologize, said that maybe Missouri would try and go to the Big Ten, and maybe they would, and maybe that opens the door for Oklahoma State to jump in. There are a lot of things that need to play out. I think right now, as we sit here at 7:40 on Thursday morning and try and process what came out yesterday, I think worrying about travel schedules and things like that, because they're going to have to, the SEC, I'll be interested to see if they go to an 8, if this happens, if all this happens, if they go to 2 8-team divisions. People are already complaining that you don't play the other division teams enough to begin with. I mean, hypothetically, in this scenario, if they stick, and remember, Alabama, when we talk about Texas being a diva, Alabama has been the main reason that we can't have completely rotating non-divisional opponents, because Alabama's got to keep their traditional game against Tennessee. Auburn, to a certain extent, wants to keep their traditional game against Georgia. LSU and Florida are just screaming for permanent or for rotating, for both non-division games to be rotating, because they're tired of playing each other. LSU and Florida don't want to play each other anymore, and they're permanent opponents. So, Alabama would control a lot of this. And again, to go back to my point, you may not see Oklahoma and Texas, if they were to say join the conference in 2025, you may not see them until 2035. So there are smaller pieces to that have to be worked out in terms of the divisions and whether they do pods. And I don't know. I feel like Greg Sankey probably already has a plan. What I'm kind of fascinated to know now, as I listen to these responses, and again, I try to process the information, what I am kind of fascinated to know is, how much do the other athletic directors know?
Right.
Because now, initially, when I read Texas A&M's response yesterday, it was, well, we want to be the only school in Texas. But now the way I read it, it's like, well, this is put out there. Let me start defending our position. Because I don't think, is it Ross Bjork? Is that right? Is that athletic director, I believe? Now that I go back and reread his comment, it feels like he knew this was coming, and this is now his attempt to stop it now that it's out in the open.
803-404-6100. We see you waiting patiently on the Love Chevy phone lines. More of your calls and texts coming in. When we come back, it's the early game here on 107.5 The Game.
Clear. All right, Love.
Was out at Love Chevrolet just the other day. I needed to get my car serviced, and certainly the trust that I have in them, the belief that I have in them to not only get it done correctly, but get it done quickly is why I continue to use them. And I'll tell you what, if you're looking for a new Chevrolet vehicle or a certified pre-owned vehicle, I would highly recommend getting out there now and checking out the inventory that they've got. 14 acres of brand new Chevys, the certified pre-owned lot. So whether you're looking to send that child of yours off to college in a certified pre-owned vehicle, something you can trust and they can drive around, or whether you're looking for something for you that's brand new, Love Chevrolet is your one-stop shop. I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park. You need to get out there. It's the sales staff that is so tremendous, so knowledgeable. They make you feel comfortable with your purchase. They help explain to you why that car or truck will fit in your everyday needs, not just on the family vacations, not just at tailgating at big football games, but in everyday life. I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park, or on the web, lovechevy.com. Get out to Love Chevrolet and find new roads.
Oh, man.
It was a weird name. I don't know how he came up with it.
Yeah, he's a creative little dude, man.
The drawing was good, and then Teresa told me that she asked him, have you ever seen guys at the ends? He said, no, it came to my mind last night. I mean, yeah, last night. Drawing.
Crazy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have his drawing on page.
Patrick, those guys hold here?
Yeah.
Yep. We'll do that when we come back. Thanks for reminding me there.
The theoretical pods are kind of difficult.
Yeah, it makes sense, but I don't know how you arrive at a championship game. Does that make?
Well, yeah, no, I think you would that would be only for the sense of keeping your most important rivalries. You'd play your 3 other teams in your pod, and then the rest of your schedule would be rotating SEC teams. So it'd still just be the best overall conference record.
Well, that's
right.
true.
So it would basically be 3 permanent teams, right?
Yeah. But I don't know how to who would be in USC's pod?
Georgia, Florida, Kentucky, or Georgia, Florida, Tennessee.
But then isn't the SEC just all about that Tennessee Alabama game? They'll do anything to make sure that Tennessee keeps playing Alabama.
Yeah.
Because the one that makes this was my general outline. Bama with Auburn, Ole Miss with Mississippi State, obviously, and then the one that makes a ton of sense is Texas, Oklahoma, A&M, and Missouri. So
Arkansas. What about Arkansas in that mix?
Yeah, I guess Arkansas, and then Missouri could be with South Carolina.
Right. Yeah, there are no great ways to do it for sure.
South Carolina, Missouri, Kentucky. Yeah. South Carolina, Missouri, Kentucky, and Vandy.
Is that the Danny DeVito division?
I guess. Ole Miss, Mississippi State, LSU, and Florida. I don't know. That stinks too. Yeah, 4 pod. There's really not an easy way to do it.
You said not an easy way?
Yeah.
Ideal way to do it.
Yeah. Because there's so many of these games that you want to be played. You kind of have to keep Florida and Georgia together, right? Because you want the cocktail party, but you also want that Georgia-Auburn game being played every year.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
12:30. 12:30.
Heath's calling on the warm line. What's up, Heath?
Oh, we're getting a Heath Klein call. Tim, are you going to play golf after the show? You do look like you're ready to.
Tim, do you want Heath today?
12:30. No, I'm good. Has he sent us a text? I think we'll be good without him today. I'll let him save those hot takes.
No, he just called and wanted to know. He said, if you need me, I'll wait, but I'm going to go get breakfast otherwise. I said, no, you're good.
Yeah. Send him off to breakfast then?
Yeah.
Yeah, he learned not to do that via text with me during the show yesterday when I didn't see his 7:30 text until 8:50. Vintage sarcastic Clemson Sean here. International Club, I think, is where we're playing today. I played it the other day. All right. Good deal these days.
All right. We're coming back.
Patrick, do you have a cast iron skillet?
Do I what?
Do you have a cast iron skillet?
No.
So we got Alan and Bill, correct?
Alan and Bill. Alan Gordon. Alan.
What do you all come in at the same time? Good morning. Good morning, Phil.
Love it.
I hope Trey's not just waking up. There was a big Mexico-France soccer game this morning. Yeah.
Typically, we're talking about Nick Saban and 3 returning starters on offense, 8 on defense. Let's preview who talked yesterday and give you the outlook on the season. SEC Media Days number 4 today, who's speaking and the whole deal. All of that's been thrown out the window this morning. with one report from the Houston Chronicle. Oklahoma and Texas interested and have reached out to join the SEC. And the responses yesterday certainly did nothing fan the flames of that momentum. Wanted to point out on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line had a couple of Charleses weigh in a few minutes ago. One of them was the one who said that Missouri should just bolt to the Big Ten. The other one said this all contributes to pricing the average fan out of going to games. Longer trips don't help people. When home game versus Texas and Oklahoma, that'll be a pricey ticket. Well, that is the exact opposite take of another season ticket holder who hit us up. I'm assuming a Gamecock season ticket holder says, I look at this as a good thing because now I'll get more bang for my buck with season tickets. Also a move to get smaller non-conference teams off the schedule, which kind of a waste of time from a ticket standpoint to begin with. Appreciate all the texts flooding in. Also the calls, 803-404-6100 on the Love Chevy phone line. That's where we head right now. Alan's been waiting very patiently to join the program. Go ahead, Alan. Doing well.
You and Bill and Patrick of 107.5 The Game, but the Gamecock Nation as a whole. And that is, if you're afraid that South Carolina is never going to win a championship because Texas and Oklahoma are thinking about coming into the SEC, then why is South Carolina in the SEC to begin with? I look at this as a great opportunity because I've always been under the impression to be the best, you got to beat the best. And I want to play the best. And any South Carolina fan who doesn't want Oklahoma or Texas coming in to really be, to me, has got to be crazy. And another thing that I look at it this way is, Florida State back in the day turned down an opportunity. Bobby Bowden, I think, and my prayers go out to him for his medical diagnosis, but said that they didn't want to join the SEC for various reasons. I'm not going to get into that. But that's almost when I hear South Carolina fans say they don't want Texas, Oklahoma, and the SEC because we will never, ever compete for a conference championship or this or that. Well, that's almost like saying that we don't want Clemson in the SEC either because we can't beat Clemson in the regular season currently. Why would we want them to be in the conference? They're just going to take conference championships away from us also. That's the way I look at it, guys. And I appreciate you taking my call. I couldn't get on the live stream this morning. This has got me fired up. Y'all have a great day.
Attaboy, Alan. Good to hear from him. I think you can want this to happen and admit that maybe it's good for the conference or will bring some even more prestige and competitiveness into the conference, and also still sit here and analyze it relatively objectively and say, well, this doesn't help your chances of winning a championship. I think those can be two separate things. And Alan, just because Richard called and said, well, South Carolina's never going to win a championship if this happens, that doesn't mean that there is a large percentage of Gamecock fans that feel that way. Let's keep it going on the Love Chevy phone lines. Bill up next at 803-404-6100. Go ahead, Bill.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Let me ask you something. Wasn't there something a few years ago about Texas wanting to leave the Big 12, and the Texas legislature said wherever Texas goes, I think Texas Tech had to go with them. It's almost like a package deal. Do you remember something like that 5, 6, 8 years ago?
Remember something like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, the Big 12.
We'll look that back up. I think it was I want to say it was to the Pac-12, but we can.
I'll look it up.
I'll look it up and see if we can remember what exactly it was.
Okay. I'll be honest with you. I mean, get better teams in, you're going to have a better product. I mean, I'm born and raised a Gamecock. I worked the athletic department as an undergrad for 6 years. Yeah, I was on the 6-year plan and really enjoyed it. But, I know how we feel about the ACC. But I'll tell you something. Bring Clemson over. Bring Florida State. I remember the Metro Conference. I really enjoyed it. But bring Clemson in. They won't be winning every year. Alabama and some of the other teams would see to that. But I just think you bring the best in, we're going to be better. So my 2 cents on it, and y'all have a great day, and I'll keep listening.
Thank you, Bill. Hour 3 coming up here. Love to hear more of your phone calls at 803-404-6100. Matthew from Landrum texting us at that number saying, have y'all noticed Clemson's never wanted to join the SEC because they know it would be too hard year in and year out. Oh, a couple of shots in hour number 2. This is a fun morning to talk football. And Oklahoma and Texas possibly coming to the SEC. Bill, you want to keep it going another hour?
They may as well. People are fired up.
Alan was fired up.
This is Todd Ellis, and you're clear. The Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
Gonna go check on the family here real quick.
Oh, I can't turn the computer, but I was trying to see if I could find that article in Texas and Texas Tech having to stay together.
Yeah, I did a search too. Nothing really popped up. I think somebody might have proposed it back in the day and it didn't pass or something. That would be my guess.
Potentially. So what channel is this? Brazil? Is it Brazil, Germany, men's or men's?
Yeah, men's. It should be NBC Sports or USA Network, I'm guessing. I just have the NBC Sports app, so you can pick like what you're gonna watch.
Or you said you think it might be USA?
Yeah, USA Network. Those are what all the games are on.
Looks like the Olympic Channel has Argentina and Australia, and Australia is up 1-0 in the 67th minute.
Let's see if I can get that on my laptop while we do this.
Does USA have access to the Olympics?
The USA Network, yeah, I think it must be owned by NBC.
Yeah, you're right. Brazil's up 2-0 on Germany in the 26th minute.
Oh wow, that's early. Olympic Channel. I wish I was sitting in the studio and could just watch this on both TVs. Mexico versus France Group A. That already happened. Watch it.
Let me go back to the other one. That would be an upset, right? Australia beating Argentina?
Yeah, generally speaking. The Olympics is weird, though, because it's only 23-year-olds and under.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but you can bring 3 older players. You're allowed up to 3. But some teams just didn't bring them anyway. Like, just only brought under 23 players. Oh, man, I hate their website. I don't even know how to do this.
Yes, please subscribe. Subscribe, Root Toot. I'm not sure it was a rumor, though. If it was a rumor, you'd have had people absolutely put it down within. You'd have had Oklahoma, Texas, and the SEC at least shoot it down and just say nothing to it.
Root Toot.
Oh, what a pass. Oh, you blew it.
I can't get this game on. I don't know why. I gotta get on Peacock.
Is that what the Olympic?
I guess so.
Australia's, man, they got it. They missed a couple opportunities here in the last few seconds.
Man, I don't know how to get on Peacock.
Oh, what a pass through. All right, Australia stinks at soccer. The dude had a one-on-one breakaway, stopped, waited for his teammate, decided to pass it. Dude had a wide open look at the goal and kicked it dead into the goalie.
Keep your composure.
Telling us to check our AP wire. Do you guys know?
Yeah, well, Root Toot said it was it is a rumor, but it's a rumor that nobody put down. Texas didn't deny it. Oklahoma didn't deny it. The SEC definitely didn't deny it.
Yeah, my AP wire is not showing that. Just Bears in Tokyo. That's all I'm seeing on the AP wire.
Bears in Tokyo. Brazil just scored again, Trey. 3-0. It's too early in that game.
Wow. This is a great conversation. I feel like you're right, Bill. It has to be happening in Arkansas. Trying to think where else. Of SEC schools that haven't won an SEC football championship. How they're talking about that today. I guess Tennessee now, Kentucky. About whether you really want this or not. Are you scared or are you smart, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would be interested to hear the conversation in Knoxville today, just because they obviously, 20 years ago, almost 25 years ago, they were successful, but you can't really say the same today, and this makes their climb back to the top. But again, just depends on what your schedule looks like on a year in, year out basis.
I want to know what Clark Lee's thinking today. He is cool, by the way.
Really? I thought you were going opposite.
No, I dug that jacket.
Okay, interesting.
I wouldn't wear it, but it worked. You're up.
Man, there are just some days, typically they're not in July, where we get on a topic and we could go for 6 hours, 9 hours. We could go all day and talk about the topic, but in so many different ways. And today is one of those days. The Houston Chronicle yesterday putting out the report that Texas and Oklahoma have reached out to the SEC about joining the conference. And doing it on day number 4 of SEC Media Days, or day number 3 yesterday, it has completely taken over the conversation, because it's not just about the SEC adding a couple of teams. It's not just about Oklahoma and Texas telling the Big 12 that they're not going to re-up their media rights in 2025. This is about continuing what has been a massive evolution of the game of college football as we know it just here in the last couple of weeks. Name, image, likeness. College football playoff expansion to 12 teams. Now, possible expansion from 14 to 16 teams with two of the largest name brand schools in the history of college athletics in Oklahoma and Texas. And it has turned into, for our program, Bill, how do Gamecock fans take this in? Because he had Richard call up and say, now no chance of winning the SEC championship. Allen responds to that and says, man, I'm fired up. That is weak. That is not the way I'm looking at this at all. You got to play against the best. He dropped the Ric Flair line. To be the best, you got to beat the best. Now, several more of you weighing in on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. And if you have texted us this morning, I haven't read it on the air. My apologies. A lot of flooding in, as you might imagine. I'm trying to read. We had 3 different text messages just at 7:54, for example. 7:56 this morning, Ford says, I was at school at Carolina from 2009 to 2013. I know what we can do at Carolina. Bring them boys on. Cocky Codger, a bit more experienced Gamecock fan, if you will. He goes back a few more years. Clemson is Exhibit A that Allen, the caller that basically said what Ford said, and bring him on. And to be the best, you got to beat the best. He's dead wrong. Take the easiest path possible to the title, Cocky Codger says, especially when you have a national media outlet as your marketing arm. I wish we were still in the ACC for sure. Just my opinion, humble as always. Bill, I don't know if I've ever heard that one from Gamecock fans, wishing they were still in the ACC. I mean, you grew up in Lexington and in a Gamecock family and the whole deal. Have you heard that very frequently from Gamecock fans in your interactions through the years?
I mean, I've heard it some. It's from older Gamecocks that remember the rivalry days against Duke and North Carolina. And again, a lot of that stems more from basketball, right? Because it's not like South Carolina was experiencing a ton of success football-wise in the ACC when they were in the conference. So, but there's no doubt that the path to a championship is much easier in the ACC than it is in the SEC, and that, you know, if South Carolina would be in the ACC, maybe there would be a little bit more success. But I also, that's the old weird conversation of like, well, Steve Spurrier probably wouldn't have come. Lou Holtz maybe doesn't come. Maybe South Carolina football is not the same. You don't have this multi-million-dollar facility over there. Maybe Clemson pushes them to do it. I don't know. But yeah, I have heard people say that. And to be honest, yeah, if South Carolina, if this is about winning championships, you're not really worried about Texas and Oklahoma coming. You're worried about getting out of the SEC and trying to go compete in a lesser conference, right? Just call up the American Athletic Conference, the AAC. Call them up. Maybe you could compete there with Memphis and Houston and UCF and Cincinnati. Maybe that's the direction you should go if this is about winning championships. Look, it's going to be difficult. Even if you go to the ACC, it's not going to necessarily be easy. Clemson's a juggernaut there. North Carolina's getting better. We'll see what Florida State does. Miami's a tough team. It's not a given that you just go over there. So, but that's not going to happen. That South Carolina's not leaving the SEC. And I also don't think South Carolina's about to rock the boat and be one of those teams that says, yeah, we don't want Oklahoma, Texas in, so count us out on that. South Carolina's going to fall right in line with kind of whatever Greg Sankey wants.
But wait a second. Before you just throw Carolina in there, I think we need to discuss this a little bit closer, because Texas A&M clearly is raising their hand and saying no. I mean, their athletic director already came out and said, we left the Big 12 to become the only Texas team in the SEC for a reason. Missouri clearly doesn't want their old Big 12 foes in the league either. That it hurts them in recruiting as well. My question is, since you got to have 11 out of 14, I believe the way the conference rules are written right now, 11 out of 14 schools to approve it, what is the advantage other than money? We all get it, and that might be a dumb question because money is driving this for sure, and massive amounts of money. Is there any other reason for Alabama or Florida or Georgia to approve this, as well as South Carolina? Or is it simply just the economics are too good? Is that how this thing goes? It says, hey guys, here's the number. However many $1 million it is a year. How many would we guess off the top of my head? I guess, I don't know, 12, 15? Is that going to be the number that SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey says immediately that ESPN will pay out per year now? 12 to $15 million. This is what it's worth for us per year in the foreseeable future, 10 years. I mean, you can't be in a position of leadership and turn down that money because you feel like you might lose an extra game or two in your sports per year, correct?
Well, and this is what I don't think any of us know is what is the direction of college football. And I say that because it feels like I thought for a while that we would end up with 5 16-team conferences. And the conversation's always been, well, who do you go out there and get? Who are the next two? Right? And in my opinion, this is just the way I always saw this shaking out, is that you would end up with 5 16-team power conferences. And the Sun Belt and the MAC and the Mountain West and all those would move on to a separate division of college football, or they'd fall into the FCS, or, but you were going to have a reshaping of the landscape, a complete reshape of the landscape of college football. That's just the way I always felt that this was heading. So now you ask, all right, if that's what is going to happen, if you're going to go to 16, who would you want in your league that is obtainable? All right, you got Texas and Oklahoma. That's one option. Do you want Kansas Baylor? Do you want TCU Texas Tech? Do you want Iowa State? Do you want to go the other path and go Memphis, Central Florida, Houston? And I know some of you are screaming at your radio right now going, well, why? Why do you have to go to 16? Why is it? I don't know why, and maybe you don't. But that's the big question. What does the new era of college football look like? Because just in my opinion, I've always thought it would end up at 16. I thought it would end up with 5 conferences. I think the Big 12 is about to be plundered.
But why the Bill? Why stop at 16 teams and why have 5 different conferences? Just because it's Power 5 now, what keeps college football from breaking into 2 conferences and having 35 teams each or 40?
Well, I think what I've always thought was you had conferences with solid footing, and there was 3 of those that I thought were most stable, and that's the SEC, the ACC, and the Big Ten. It feels like after the last round of conference realignment, those 3 emerged most stable out of everybody. You always had the Big 12. Big 12's got 10 teams. Okay, I mean, I realize the Big Ten has 14, but the bottom line is the Big 12 has always felt the least stable. Yep. And then you had the Pac-12, which the Pac-12 just kind of seems to be off on their. It feels like the Pac-12 is the Big Ten's little brother. Like the Big Ten is over there telling the Pac-12 what to do, and the Big Ten would protect the Pac-12 from anything happening to it. I don't weird relationship between those 2 conferences, but you feel like the Pac-12 is just out there doing its own thing, but the Big Ten's going to step in like Big Brother at some moment and defend it. The Big 12's just always kind of been out there on its own, the conference most likely to be rated. And I thought maybe they'd be able to grow, maybe be able to settle in. But I'll go back to it. If it's Texas, if you believe the theory that I'm putting out there, not everybody has to, because you can say, no, it should stay the way it is. Stay the way it is and tell the Big 12 to expand. But Oklahoma and Texas are clearly not happy. Oklahoma and Texas are clearly not happy. Oklahoma and Texas are going to go somewhere. I think that's what's going to happen. I don't see Oklahoma and Texas staying in the Big 12. Now, they clearly want out. And their brands are big enough that they can go enhance the Pac-12. I don't know if the ACC. I don't know if the ACC would be open to taking Oklahoma and Texas, but maybe that's their next step. Maybe if the SEC says no, maybe Oklahoma and Texas band together and say, hey, let's see if we can get into the ACC together. I feel like Oklahoma and Texas are out there shopping themselves. I don't know if the SEC necessarily started this, but it feels like Oklahoma and Texas have come together and been like, look, we've got to do something that's best for our long-term future. And that's getting out of the Big 12 where the money's not as good. And with name, image, likeness, and with everything going on now, 12-team playoff, we need a better landing spot.
West Columbia Tom says, don't need Texas in the SEC. There are already enough prima donnas in this conference. George says, more money should not be the end-all, be-all or admitting Texas and Oklahoma into the SEC. If you already have a 10-inch stick, what good does another inch do you? Anonymous texter, I'm extremely disappointed in the lack of testicular fortitude amongst my garnet-clad brethren. We already play the teams Texas and Oklahoma can't beat. If you're scared, may I suggest the MLS? Well, I think there's a difference between being scared or afraid of raising the level of competition and being smart, strategic. There's a difference there. The question I have is, where do university athletic directors and presidents fall in here? Because how much do you have to wade through what we're told and say, oh, they're just telling us that because they're clearly following the money? And as leaders of universities and athletic departments, that's part of your job, to bring in more money and to make sure you end up in the black and the whole thing. Or is it what that last texter is talking about? Hey, man, it's the best conference in the country already. Bring in 2 more. Because right now, Texas is not that far ahead of South Carolina's football program. Bill, I was talking in the national break, I think, just about how the conversation has to be very interesting right now. And you brought it up really earlier in the program in Fayetteville, Arkansas today, or Lexington, Kentucky, even in Knoxville, where they haven't won a conference championship forever. In these SEC towns where we haven't seen them play for a championship or win a football championship in a while. The other ones, Georgia and Alabama, even Auburn, I don't think it's much of a conversation where those programs already are. All right, bring them on in. It's just one more, and especially with the college football playoff expanding, it gives SEC teams, SEC programs who are at the top even a little bit more latitude, I think. A loss to Oklahoma on your resume ain't going to hurt you very much. But how does the University of South Carolina look at this? Some of you out there just are looking at this as the woe is me. I just got one text in talking about that they're sure South Carolina, no matter what happens with the divisions and the whole things. Here it is, Brad from Belton. However it would work out and shake up in the divisions, I'm sure Carolina would get screwed and draw one of the two, Texas or Oklahoma, as their permanent cross-division rival. Alabama and Auburn would probably move to the east and draw Mississippi State and Arkansas. Again, I don't think we should be looking at this thing as clearly the SEC is going to keep an East and West division, and they're going to try to line it up geographically, because when you're the Southeastern Conference and you're adding Oklahoma and Texas, clearly geography is not high up on the list. And Bill, everything, fundamentally, there cannot be a more drastic change in college football than what we've seen here just in the last couple of weeks. I mean, the name, image, likeness thing on its own is so fundamentally different than college football has ever seen that adding Texas and Oklahoma to a conference is like, as a side note at this point.
Well, so I wanted to get to these in the first hour. I'll do them now. Movie references that I can relate to. Because I feel like here's where we're at, right? I feel like there's 2 good movie references that I've seen recently. Independence Day. You know the dancer who makes the sign for the aliens, and she's excited for the aliens to be coming. She goes up to the top floor of the huge, and she's excited. She's like, welcome. Like, I feel like that's me right now. Like, come on, Texas. Come on. I'm excited. This is great. Welcome home. And then the aliens blow up the building. And she's like, I feel like that could be me. And the other one is what somebody just hit us up on the text line. And I was referencing that last night too, because I just watched it the other day. Patrick hates the movie, I think, but 2012, where the scientist knows the world is about to change. He just didn't know the timeline properly. And so when they take him out to China and they built the big arcs, if anybody's ever seen that movie 2012 with John Cusack and
I mean, not that many people have. It's just not a movie that you're going to reference a mixed company and expect people to understand.
But I think more people have seen 2012 than you believe. But anyway,
I mean, but you're not dropping a Godfather quote here and everyone's just expecting to get it.
True. But they've already built the arcs. They've already planned for this, and I feel like that's kind of where we're at with this discussion. Like it feels like it's already happened below the surface. It feels like now I'm putting together, doing a conspiracy theory. It feels like I'm putting together what Mark Emmert said last week, where it's like he knows that the NCAA cannot wrap its arms around major college football. If I go back and look and he says, well, governing, I forget the exact sports he said, but governing field hockey and governing lacrosse is now two entirely different sports. And while he never used college football, it feels like the NCAA has now realized we can't govern what college football has become. We tried to tell them not to play football last year, and they just ignored us. We have no control over college football. And I feel like when he says, hey, it's time to step back, we're just going to hand college football over to somebody else, we can't run it. And it felt like he might know that's coming. Then I factor in what Greg Sankey said on Monday about the evolution of college football. You go back to yesterday, all the responses. That's the weird part, right, Tim? Is that if this thing wasn't pretty far down the tracks, you feel like it would have been a lot easier for schools to say, no, there's nothing to it. This is a report. Like, nobody denied it.
Yeah.
They said, we're not commenting on it.
Which is a much bigger thing for sure. The texts continue to flood in on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, 803-404-6100. Same number if you would like to call the Love Chevy phone lines. Justin does 0 for us, South Carolina. He's talking about, and also mentioned that 2012 is awesome, all caps. Different Justin. Actually weighed in a little bit earlier on. I guess will Texas, if they join the SEC, disband the Longhorn Network? Yeah, that's not a problem at all. I mean, it is affiliated with ESPN, the SEC network as well. So kind of the SEC network, I think, would swallow that up. We talked about the possibility on the live video stream during the last break of just each school getting its own branch, kind of its own alternate SEC channel and playing games consistently 24/7. Patrick says he's all for that.
We had some good off-air discussion. Everybody should be joining the live stream. There's too much to talk about in the next 39 minutes.
Oh, if you guys get the YouTube subscription page up to 800 this morning, Patrick is going to be tremendously excited. A bunch of you continue to weigh in. Love to hear more of your thoughts. Gamecocks' goal should be to put themselves in position competitively to make the 12-team college football playoff, Anonymous Texter says. Then you got a chance to win. The tournament will now take the place of strength of conference and even the playing field. Nick Saban, in response to, he was asked the same question basically that Dabo Swinney was about the expansion to the college football playoff. Bill, I know you said the hemming and the hawing and mentioning going and playing a cold game in Wisconsin in December was kind of ridiculous. The one thing that did stick with me about Saban's comments as he was on the set of the SEC Network yesterday was, I think we had to pick a lane, either the bowl system or the playoff. I think we're seeing what lane the power brokers in college football are going with, and it ain't the bowl system. 803-404-6100. Again, if you would like to weigh in, it's the early game here on 107.5 The Game.
Clear. Triple A.
Whew, it's getting warm out there. It is a pretty sunset behind me on Lake Murray, but it is getting warm. The good news, I've worked with AAA Heating and Air, and my air conditioner is running perfectly. If you're experiencing some issues, don't wait around until it gets closer to 100 degrees with 100% humidity. Call AAA Heating and Air today, 803-677-1500. Get them out. Have your unit inspected. Make sure that air conditioner is working. It's been a little rainy this week. Temperatures have been a little down. That doesn't mean it's going to stay that way. We've still got some incredibly hot days in August and September to get through, and you want to do it with an air conditioner system that is working perfectly. So get AAA Heating and Air out there today to just give it an inspection. 803-677-1500. If there is an issue, don't worry about it. AAA Heating and Air will offer you a $1,500 rebate to take away that old unit, then work with you. No money down, 0% financing for those who qualify to help get you a brand new unit that you know will work, that you can trust. And here's the best part. You get that brand new unit, the last thing AAA Heating and Air does to make sure you're comfortable, they offer you a 15-year parts and labor warranty. That's treating you like a family member and making sure you and your family are happy. 803-677-1500. Call AAA Heating and Air today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. It is definitely getting warm behind me. I'm glad Tim enjoys the view, but yeah, there goes the view. It is probably a good thing that y'all also cannot see some of my facial expressions with some of the phone calls that come in. Well, I had Patrick back, so I'm not here by myself. There he is.
There we go.
Okay. And there's Tim coming in now. Yes, it is. It is getting warm.
Bill, how many times have you seen the movie 2012? More than 2?
No, 30, 40. If it's on television, usually, and I mean, if it's on television, and usually it comes on in that weird like 2 to 6 o'clock time on USA or one of the kind of lesser AMC or something, whatever movie. Usually, if I'm just kind of hanging around, I'll kind of leave it on that channel. I might not necessarily be watching it, but it's something I can always sit down and watch like 10, 15 minutes of, maybe get up and go clean something, come back. I mean, I've seen it so many times now that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a terrible movie. It's just not worth watching multiple times. I mean, I saw it in the theaters. I was very excited for it, but I would never know a reference from the movie, a specific reference from that movie.
Oh, it's got to get that the Woody Harrelson cameo in it.
I didn't even remember Woody Harrelson was in it. I couldn't tell you another person in it besides John Cusack. I could probably look at the cast and would be shocked at some of the names that are on it.
Yeah, I can't off the top of my head. I can't think of who else. I can't think of John Cusack, Amanda Peet, Woody Harrelson makes the cameo.
I mean, there's a lot of big names in it, actually. 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Wait, what? 2 hours and 40 minutes?
Yeah.
There's no way it's 2 hours and 40. Really?
It's 2 hours and 38 minutes, yeah. It's a long movie.
Well, I will admit, I have not watched it start to finish probably in a long time.
It's about as good as The Tomorrow War.
I get on board with. Well, I don't know if I'd rewatch The Tomorrow War.
I wouldn't rewatch either of them. The only time I'd watch 2012 probably, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because I don't even have cable, but I'd never just put it on Netflix, is if I could imagine myself watching it like in a hotel room. And I'm scrolling through just looking for something that I recognize.
Well, and again, part of me watching a lot of 2012 is, again, because it seems to be one of the premier movies that comes on like between 3 o'clock and 7 o'clock. So
yeah.
I will admit it's not a post 7 o'clock sit down and watch movie. It's that one and the 2012 and The Day After Tomorrow are like the two apocalypse movies that I'll kind of just have on and watch. And
yeah,
but I'm with you. I'm not saying it's a great movie. It's just one I think because of the usual time schedule it comes on in the afternoon. Yeah. I'm not watching The View or.
I could see watching 2012 on like a hungover Sunday morning. You just don't want to get up and change the channel. And I'm just like, all right, it's fine.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's a weekend. Okay. It's more of a 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, and I come home and I'm just gonna relax and kind of scroll through my phone or do something its own. So yeah. But it was on. The only reason it really comes to mind right now is because it was on it was on like Monday or Tuesday afternoon, I think. And I was watching it again. It wasn't on at night. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Sonny, you never heard of it. You don't remember when everyone thought the world was going to end in 2012? That was a big deal. I said all my final goodbyes on December 20th, 2012.
What do you remember about Y2K?
Nothing. I wish I was around for that.
I was a senior in high school. We were at a party and a buddy of mine was like, "We got to go out." I was like, "All right." Yeah, the Russian kids are annoying. Yeah, I'm not trying to stand up that this is a Emmy winning movie.
You should watch Greenland, the new movie Greenland with from 300, Gerard Butler. Gerard Butler.
What is
Greenland's
it on?
like looks a lot like 2012.
What's it called?
Greenland.
Greenland. Okay. What's it on?
I don't know. It just came out. It's probably on Hulu, HBO Max, I think.
I don't have HBO.
It's on Amazon Prime. All right, you go.
Houston Chronicle, Texas and Oklahoma reached out, exploring, headed to the SEC. Also not going to re-up their media rights deals with the Big 12 when those run out in 2025. It seems to be inevitable, just like the college football playoff expanding to 12 teams, that a few years from now, the conference alignment is going to look completely different. A lot like this reminds me of 8 years ago, whenever it was, when Texas A&M and Missouri joined the ACC, and you had other conferences like the Big 10 and the Big 12 having to adjust and scramble, and the ACC as well, with Notre Dame playing in the ACC last year. And with the college football playoff expansion proposal right now, where the Notre Dame athletic director was involved in doing this, having the first 4 byes only being conference champions, Notre Dame not in the conference now, it seems to me kind of like you were talking about SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey opening up media days just a couple of days ago with times they are changing, the Bob Dylan line. I hear that differently now after this Oklahoma and Texas report, and I am seeing the college football playoff expansion proposal different now too, knowing that Notre Dame was involved and theoretically wouldn't be able to get one of those 4 byes. It seems to me that these guys know a lot more than they're telling us, and they are acting accordingly behind the scenes. And then there's going to be a massive change that we don't quite, we can't wrap our minds around yet, because we don't have hardly any of the details except this one report from the Houston Chronicle and then some non-denials from Oklahoma officials, Texas officials, SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey. And then you got Oklahoma State all ticked off. You got Texas A&M all ticked off. One of you have hit us up on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line talking about, I haven't heard about the legislators who are going to bring up all the issues to try to block this stuff from. Yeah, I believe that'll happen for sure, because people won't be happy about this if they're not invited into the super conference that they want to be in, like Oklahoma State, most likely. Missouri, not happy right now, who's already in the SEC, I'm sure. So as we sit here today, Bill, where are you from a confidence standpoint that Oklahoma and Texas will be in the SEC by 2025, percentage-wise? Because I'm at about solid 80%.
I was going to say
right now.
80. Yeah, I was going to say 80%. I might even be a little bit higher than that. The questions I have, it's going to be a weird day, right? Missouri, Eli Drinkowitz has got to speak today. Who else? Let's do this. Let me try and do this off the top of my head without looking at the schedule. Sam Pittman, that would be an interesting to hear from, because you've got to think we're not going to get anything out of Greg Sankey. I don't even know if Greg Sankey, I guess he's got to make appearances, but
not on day 4, does he? I'd be already having something to do. I don't even know what you would put out as an official press release, like official business or meetings with others around the conference, the whole thing. There's a proposal that you need to hear. You don't want to be in the media spotlight today. And somebody hit us up earlier talking about, this couldn't have come out before Sankey, because it would have been complete cluster.
Yeah, I mean, again, so I wonder how much he is around. And I can tell you just from being there, the final day is always kind of like everybody getting out of there anyway. The Radio Row ends up a lot less. Today you've actually got Brian Parson. I will be interested to hear that. Auburn, Eli Drinkowitz, and Sam Pittman. Eli Drinkowitz will be interesting because now we know Missouri doesn't want this. Will they ask him about it? You know what his answer is going to be is, I'm only focused on Missouri and my team in 2021 and so forth. He's not going to give you any insight into it.
And Sam Pittman will
Greg
welcome
Sankey
all challengers.
He might do it at the podium.
Sam Bennett will spill the beans. He knows everything. And
what if he walks up there with horns down, just throwing it out all over the place
on a boomer schooner? Right.
Arkansas plays Texas this year, I believe. I think.
Yeah, they typically do.
I think they do. But anyway, it's gonna be interesting to see this evolve over the next few weeks. This will, if it's true, if this is true, then the cat's out of the bag and it needs to move very quickly. I would think maybe it doesn't.
Do you think that Oklahoma State would feel jaded and not want to play Oklahoma anymore?
Oh yeah, for sure. I can see the.
I would be genuinely upset if the Bedlam rivalry just disappears.
But it would go the way of Texas A&M.
That will make me sad. That will make me genuinely sad. I like watching that game.
I do. Your question or somebody's point earlier is very legitimate, and I wonder about this. Could you work with? Does Missouri feel like they're in the SEC? Would they feel more comfortable in the Big Ten? Could the SEC work with the? I mean, again, we're all dealing in hypotheticals. It's fun to talk. To me, it's a lot of fun to talk about how this could all shake out. For all we know, 5 years from now, there's still going to be a 14-team league, and nothing has changed. And this report is just something that popped out, and nothing ever came up. We don't know what exactly is going to happen, but. Could you see a scenario where now, for the betterment of college football, it's not like the Big Ten is making less than the SEC, right? Missouri's not going to leave the SEC to go to the Pac-12 or the ACC. But what if Missouri felt more comfortable in the Big Ten and said, hey, we'll go to that conference. The SEC says, all right, now we can bring in Oklahoma State with Oklahoma and Texas. This gives us 3 spots. Like, you just wonder where the conversations are at amongst athletic directors. Did this news yesterday catch the Big Ten off guard? Did it catch the ACC off guard? Where are we at in the behind the scenes knowledge of what comes out over the next few days from other commissioners around the league? And where do we get with this Oklahoma-Texas deal?
So, Bill, I am not like you in that talking too hypothetically drives me nuts, right? And the way that college football, a lot of you, some of your texts today have already driven me nuts. One of you guys sent me like a Google Doc about how you've already got the divisions all planned out in the SEC with Oklahoma and Texas. I'm like, whoa. That's way too hypothetical down the line for me. I like to talk in real world stuff, but the reason that we're talking about this is because this was a real report from the Houston Chronicle and not a message board nerd throwing it out there or somebody who has a history of hyping things up and being sensationalistic. And then the response from the schools themselves, both Texas and Oklahoma, just saying things change. We're not going to talk about rumors or speculation. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey saying, I'm not going to talk about anything other than 2021 kind of things. Change. I mean, starting his SEC address with times are changing. And then Oklahoma State and Texas A&M's response, clearly feeling threatened by this. It all seems really legitimate right now. So that's why this conversation has as much merit in my mind as it does today, as we sit here today, as opposed to just randomly throwing out hypothetical conferences or teams in a conference and the whole deal. Like is done a lot, I think, in college football circles. But the really interesting part of this is that SEC schools are already in an excellent place, both competitively and financially. So fan bases understand that. Fan bases that I think are already stretched much thinner than they've ever been financially in a lot of ways, right? Coming off of COVID and then just keeping up with the Joneses from a facility standpoint. And then now you throw a name, image, and likeness where you can throw money around, where you can throw $10,000 to a player to do an interview on a fan site. So the question then becomes to me, how do fan bases accept this or respond to this? And we've already seen a divide from Gamecock fans that we've heard from this morning. Hey, this is dumb. This is not going to help us win a championship. Don't want this as a Gamecock fan. And then the other side of that is, hey, you got to welcome all challengers. If you're a true competitor, absolutely bring them in. And it's only going to be good. Somebody just put us up on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line about expanding the brand and making more money. That's what college sports is really about, and that's what's happening here if Oklahoma and Texas come to the SEC. So how this continues to be sold today or reacted to, like how these specific coaches are going to react to this at SEC Media Days, I think is pretty fascinating. Because even Jimbo Fisher yesterday seemed caught off guard. Like, I don't know how I feel about it. We got to protect Texas A&M, but I think the other part of them didn't want to come off as sounding weak or afraid to add Oklahoma and Texas to the mix. I just don't know how this is going to be sold to basically the stakeholders of college football right now, season ticket holders and big-time boosters, how they're going to react to this. Because I feel like we've already seen it with Texas A&M and Missouri to some degree. Oklahoma and Texas, it's a different animal, man, when you're talking about possibility of joining the SEC, something I never thought we would talk about with any legitimacy anytime soon, Bill, and yet here we sit today.
Yeah, and again, it's going to be interesting because it does feel like Oklahoma and Texas have started this, and that if you're the SEC and you turn them down, you say, no, we don't want you. What is their next move? Will they go to the ACC? Will they go to the Big Ten? Look, do I think Texas and Oklahoma threaten Clemson? No, not at all. And in fact, if you're the ACC, you'd love to add them because it increases your brand and your media rights. And now you can possibly start being able to sell or give the television revenue back to your teams, much like the SEC and the Big Ten are doing. Clemson's not going to be threatened by them. Would Georgia Tech? Would Virginia? Yeah, oh yeah. Boston College? Yeah. But and I think that's where you're at, and that's why you see the SEC having to move on this quickly, because if this is playing out the way it seems, Texas and Oklahoma are gone. They're on the move. Now, I don't know how this is going to work with, again, the legislators in Oklahoma, because it does seem like they're keeping those two together. But the bottom line is, it feels like Texas and Oklahoma are said, we're done with the Big 12. We're not getting what we want. We realize that name, image, likeness will drive some of this. We can be in a bigger conference. We can help recruit our kids better. We do things differently. We got to find a new landing spot. And the Big 12 is 5th out of 5 conferences.
To me, it's just the opportunity to grow and to join something that's better. That's what I see it as. And knowing that Oklahoma and Texas, they kind of call the shots. To me, they are the Big 12 right now. The rest of it, I mean, the fact that the Big 12 and they got 10 teams, that's all I need to know about that conference. Crazy to think about today. Trying to wrap our minds around it. Appreciate all the comments today. Keep them coming in. Dramatic conclusion of the show. Give you a chance to go see the Foo Fighters inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as well. That's coming up. It's the early 5 game.
Clear.
How comfortable are you right now is my question to you. If you're not sitting in the most comfortable recliner, I recommend you get out to Daniel's Fine Furniture and Bedding. So right near the airport, towards the back there. I was there the other day, and man, their leather gallery, they have just a ton, more than 50 leather recliners. You just go try them all out, see which one fits you perfectly, and then buy it right off the floor. And if you're within 20 miles of West Columbia there, their store, they'll deliver it to you for free. It's that simple at Daniel's Fine Furniture and Bedding, where Daniel and June Clark have been serving the Midlands for more than 50 years. They're known for the 3 Bs, the best furniture, the best service, and the best price. And they're ready for you to join their family. They're not going to treat you like a big box store where you're just another number walking in. They want to have a relationship with you through the years. They know that they're going to sell you furniture that's going to last years, but maybe you're replacing it piece by piece or room by room. However you're doing it at your house, wherever you are, you got to go check out Daniel's Fine Furniture and Bedding, back of the airport, 3911 Edmond Highway. When it's time to save, it's time for Daniel's Fine Furniture and Bedding. Oh, we're stroking there on the Lake Murray.
$782 subscribers. This is our wall, really. 800.
Dude, you just went up by 5. You got a wall.
We hit 750 like 3 months ago.
It sounds like you don't want Texas and Oklahoma to join your conference because you're scared. That's what I'm hearing.
I want us to have 1,000 subscribers.
So if you can be out at the Beamer golf outing, we will definitely up our subscribers. We can get some of that golf on the YouTube live stream. Kev, I think you just click the subscribe button there on YouTube under the video. Thank you, Trey.
Yeah, when we haven't mentioned it enough, just about the behind-the-scenes stuff, but Tim, you said it once, but we haven't hammered it enough just about Notre Dame. What was it, the president or the athletic director? Was on
AD. Swarbrick, I think. I think it's their AD, Jack Swarbrick, I believe is his name.
He's on a committee that has basically agreed in principle to a 12-team playoff where only conference champions can get a bye. And Notre Dame can't, so Notre Dame could never get a bye. And from as much as we talk about Texas whining and complaining, you don't think Notre Dame wouldn't whine and complain that they could never get a bye?
Right.
I mean, what did he know? What did he know that went ahead? Like, do they already pretty much have a deal in place with the ACC or a conference to join that'll get out later?
Completely.
Tim, I think guy, you called him out for sending a Google Doc. I think he deleted the doc and then apologized.
Really? You didn't have to do that.
Yeah, I clicked on the link to the Google Doc and it says this file does not exist.
Oh, poor Patrick.
All right, we're back. You're up.
Patrick. Not Patrick Perret, our producer this morning, helping to fill in for the great Jim Jensen and the Herndon Chevrolet Studios in downtown Columbia. But Patrick, our texter, I didn't mean to offend you today by calling you out for making a Google Doc about the new proposed SEC conference with Texas and Oklahoma added. I'm just saying that I can't go that far down the hypothetical rabbit hole immediately today. I'm still trying to wrap my brain around this Houston Chronicle story that said Oklahoma reached out to the SEC. And then the responses yesterday that seemed to, reading the tea leaves, point to that being completely legitimate and it happening by 2025. That's cool if you can. He mentions in a text where he apologized for doing that. You didn't have to apologize for it, man.
Well, I did the same thing. I was showing in the live stream the theoretical pods that if you were doing 4x4, how it would work.
I'm just saying that's not where my brain goes. My brain goes to more, how are these schools going to respond to this? And what are the pros and cons? Somebody hit us up earlier. Make a pros and cons list. That's how my brain functions. But he's just saying that he came up with a way to fix some holes and to make the conference better. And Bill, is it that simple? Is that going to be the message from Ray Tanner or other athletic directors out there to their fan bases, their respective fan bases? Adding Oklahoma and Texas makes the SEC better. That is in our best interest when you're part of a group to make the group better. Could it be that simple?
Yeah, I don't see why it couldn't be. I mean, look, there's not going to have to be. This feels like, to me, because if you look at it, I don't know if Arkansas wants this. I don't know if Tennessee would want this. Does Kentucky care? Kentucky might not care about football. They might just be like, look, it doesn't really affect us in basketball. We got to play Texas and Oklahoma. Who cares? We're better than them. Does Florida want this in football? I mean, does Auburn want this? You know, Auburn's in an interesting area. We've talked about it in terms of competition. I don't know who this helps, but it feels like Greg Sankey is going to go to the athletic directors, or at least 12 of them, outside of Missouri and Texas A&M, and be like, look, you better vote yes on this, or else we're going to make your life very, very difficult.
Like, you go to Texas A&M, like, guys, we get it. Sorry. Missouri, hey, we understand you're still the new kid. That's how it works. Well, other guys, I get it. South Carolina, Arkansas, you hadn't been around that long. But guess what? Here's the way we're doing this. Get on board or start looking elsewhere.
Jimbo's going to have to give his trophy back because they just lost their best advantage.
I mean, and somebody else asked on the text line earlier, why would Missouri be against this? Same deal. That you're not special. You're not as special as you were. Still, in the St. Louis area, you can still go sell the SEC, and I'm assuming Oklahoma and Texas don't go in there too hard. And so maybe there's more of an advantage for Missouri in this thing than there is for Texas A&M. Texas A&M is the one that really gets killed here. And if you guys haven't read that article from The Athletic talking about recruiting from high school coaches' standpoints, like they had in the state of South Carolina, they've done it in the state of Florida, state of Texas is where I got that one, where Jimbo Fisher and company really sell the SEC, and that message has really resonated in recruiting in that state. Let's get in another phone call here. Love Chevy phone lines. Kyle's been waiting very patiently to weigh in. Kyle, appreciate the patience. Go ahead, sir. Yes, sir. We got you.
Dressed yet. But what bothers me about this expansion is that at 14 teams, we already don't play some teams in the West for years at a time, and then especially visiting their stadiums. So with 16, I think what's going to happen is I think that the next logical step would be to expand conference games. 9 sounds great until you realize that you're playing 5 on the road and your rival's playing 4. And then maybe you go to 10. And so what I worry about with the expansion is that if you go to 10, right, we play Clemson. So we have 1 game left. And, you know, those Charlotte games, they go away. We're playing East Carolina on the road. That type of game goes away. And I think that inevitably the conference kind of starts to insulate itself a little bit. You know, Miami and Alabama play. That type of game goes away. Georgia, Clemson, that goes away. And so once the novelty wears off of playing Oklahoma and Texas a couple times, you're stuck the rest of your life playing the exact same teams, and you just hope that you make the playoff and you get to play an obscure team. So, again, I don't like the 16. I just think that you insulate yourself very regionally. And while it's good for the bottom line as far as money, I think it hurts the sport. So if Texas and Oklahoma wanted to go somewhere else, that'd be great, but I'd rather them not be in the SEC. Great show. I'll hang up and I'll listen. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate the phone call, Kyle. Guys, did you guys get the feeling that Kyle was describing basically the NFL?
He was describing how things would be schedule-wise, and to me, it's great for the fan. I'm all for it. Better games.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be that way. I think you'll still look. There's a lot. As he was talking, I was trying to listen to him. There was an article that came out late last night that I had not seen. It's listed as 10 hours ago, so 10 or 11 o'clock. It's on orangebloods.com, which is the Rivals website for Texas. It says publisher Jeff Ketchum and the writer for this, Anwar Richardson, basically are saying that this is going to happen. That, Tim, to your point, a high-level university official informed orangebloods.com the expectation is Texas and Oklahoma would inform the Big 12 as early as next week. Both schools intend to decline the extending the existing set of media rights. That should start the dominoes. And then he goes on to point out that Orange Bloods was told a move to the SEC would signal the end of the Longhorn Network and that the school has come to terms with this. Another source has told them they would not be surprised if the Longhorn Network simply folded into the SEC network. And he also points out the most interesting part: nobody at Texas who routinely dismiss stories they believe are inaccurate, no one dismissed this.
Oklahoma and Texas to the SEC. SEC Media Days should be fun. Number 4 today. Heath Klein live on location. We'll keep you updated all afternoon. Thanks for listening to the early game here on 107.5 The Game. Dan Patrick Show coming up next. Thank you, Anthony. Man, that was something for sure, huh?
That was well, that'll get us through a few more days, I think.
We're kidding, huh?
Just need one.
Guys, thanks for checking out the live stream. Thanks to those of you who subscribed to the YouTube page today. Spread the word if you could. Patrick is just pessimistic about the chances of getting to 1,000. I don't think he thinks we can do it.
I am pessimistic.
I know we can, especially when we're playing golf against Shane Beamer and company, and it's being broadcast live on the YouTube. We can do it. We can do it, Patrick.
Let's see, 784. I mean,
you definitely need to wake up earlier, Whit. Yeah, Kev. All kinds of ways to do it. We'll do it again tomorrow. See you guys then.
You can watch what you missed.
Right. You can always just go back to the YouTube. It automatically archives it.